And here we are, everybody. Thank you for being here for this episode of Coming Home with John Allen. And today I will share my second conversation with Hans Jakob Winsnes. This brother and I, we don't agree on a lot of things, but we also agree on a lot of things. We agree on some foundational facts, and we don't agree on some foundational facts. That means that it's a dynamic discussion, and that's what I want. Dynamic dialogue, dynamic discussion. And here it comes with Hans Jakob Winsnes. Check it out. This is the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. Talk about having a true friendship and brotherhood, but disagreeing on certain topics and that disagreement being okay. I had a conversation with a guy, his name is Vincent Baugh. He's a Black American living here in Norway. And he is the vice chair for Republicans Abroad, Norway. Oh, yeah. And oh my gosh, we laughed, we joked, but we also disagreed and had that serious conversation. And oh yeah, can you light my candle over there? I forgot to do that. No problem. Gotta have the candle lit. That's part of the atmosphere. Thank you, my friend. And a lot of people reacted when you were here the last time, how we were able to, on some of the topics we disagreed on were quite drastic disagreement, but we kept a civil tone, and it was obvious that we were enjoying the dialogue, and a lot of people aren't used to that, and I want people to get used to that, because I laughed with Vincent. Vincent said, I need to stop being such a kumbaya person. But I believe, he said I should just stop that and just let people disagree. And again, I think it's fine. I think it's fine to disagree, but I think it's vital that the dialogue, the decent, constructive dialogue, remains in place. That's what brings about progress for the better. It's a compromise situation. And it's not you don't always have to be right. It's okay to be wrong and to change your mind. And
I think that
that's the sound of coffee, everybody who's not watching but just listening.
Oh, could I have some?
There you go. And there's also hot water for tea if you want that. And there's some powdered coffee down there as well.
Englishmen,
no British people here.
Like we're Americans.
Pure Norwegian and American.
Yeah. No. I think that there's a place for discussion for the discussion's sake.
Yes.
And it's a place to kind of battle out your ideas, and it's okay to try to win.
Yeah.
In certain, but I think that has to be kind of, okay, now we're agreeing on, we're going to battle out these ideas, and we're going to figure out who has the best ideas.
Yeah.
The thing with that is that it's not necessarily the best ideas that win, but the best orator or the best
presentation is
yes.
key. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily the best ideas that win.
Right.
But then you have the other thing is okay, now we have a conversation.
Yeah.
And when I came here last time, I came with, I said that I was a Trump supporter. I'm more leaning towards the Republican side of the aisle. Mm-hmm. But I didn't come in, we were just going to have a dialogue. I didn't have a clue what we were going to talk about. Yeah, we didn't
really have an agenda or a set plan of exactly the topics we were going to talk about.
So, and I saw, one of the things that I saw, I viewed our conversation last time, and I saw some of the comments, and one of the things that, I learned a lot, and I took it as,
so did I.
I kind of jumped into it, and, okay, I'll just learn as I go along. It's and you put a lot of questions back at me that and and some of the things I really liked what we did, and some of the things I see that we could have done different.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that afterwards, about how we kind of want to approach this conversation a little bit differently than we did the first time.
Yeah, and I think that I saw there was some parts that, at least I can speak for myself, that I came into the battle mode. There was parts of the conversation that I felt like we came into battle mode. And I felt like also that you came into battle mode. Like, for example, like you mentioned like some statistics that I haven't heard about. And when you, for example, I was making a point and you mentioned the statistics, and it's like, well, I haven't heard about the statistics and I can't go in and fact check it or anything like that. It's like you're kind of taking it out. And I think that when we have a conversation, it's like, okay, let me finish my point and let's then have, what is your point? How's your view on that? So,
yeah, I saw some comments on YouTube that they were saying they would like to see. There were two sides to it. Some people said that the very dynamic back and forth, sometimes interrupting and whatnot, was good because that is a normal conversation, normal. Whereas other people were saying they didn't like that. They wanted it to be a more structured, because to me a conversation is fluid like that, but a debate is structured. In other words, the one side speaks until they're finished, and then the other side speaks in response while the other side stays quiet, and so forth. So I guess I didn't approach that last time you were here as a debate. I approached it as a free-flowing conversation.
But I got a little bit into the attack mode.
Battle. Isn't that normal in conversation?
Yeah, but I wish that I wasn't. I wish that I could kind of, okay.
I know what you mean. I do. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Because I
can agree with that. Yeah.
Like we talked afterwards, and I see that I still had some of the battle mode afterwards. Actually, I sent you some videos to kind of underline my points, and
sent me a lot of videos.
Yeah, and to be honest, like some of that was like, I want to win this. I want you to come over to my side in a way. But then it's like, then the last time we talked on the like with your sickness and stuff like that, I genuinely just wanted to have a relationship with you. I wanted you. I wanted the best for you. It was not about winning you over, but it was like for me, loving you as a person, and that was different. Because when you came in here, I've never met you before. I never talked. Like we talked a couple of times on the phone. So when I came in here, it was kind of... It
was the beginning of a brand new friendship, wasn't it? Yeah.
And we came here with the understanding that I was representing Trump and conservatism, and you were on the other side, and we're going to talk about that and how can we have a decent conversation without and being so different and still have a decent conversation and build a relationship. And I felt like we had a good relationship in hindsight of the conversation. And
I see what you mean. Yeah.
But it's like there was some of the flesh in me that came up. I want to beat this guy. Like he's totally wrong in his opinions, right?
But again, isn't that okay? I believe that. I
think that's okay.
Yeah, I do. I always have.
But I think it's like, for me, it's like I came into this conversation not really knowing what to expect. And I saw some of the videos you had on afterwards
some
about
of the clips.
some of the clips and some of the discussions about my clips. And I'm gonna bring it this time. Like I wrote down, like I prepared.
Did you take notes?
Yes.
I love it.
I wrote down some notes, but I'm not sure if I want to even take them up because it's like.
No, do that, please. Yeah. Because I feel there was a lot left on, and this happens actually a lot, and it doesn't have to necessarily be an opposing, a conversation of me in opposition to someone or someone in opposition to me, but any guest who comes here for any reason, very often after we turn off the camera and turn off the mics, just like we did, we sat here for like another 20, 30 minutes maybe, and maybe that should have been filmed and recorded because that was a much softer discussion where we went through a little bit of the things that we disagreed on and kind of explained ourselves a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think any relationship is dynamic, and I think people are removing some of the dynamics of normal relationships, because in normal relationships, you don't always agree.
No.
Now it's team left and team right instead of team humanity.
But that is where I didn't feel like we got into that last time. But
No, we didn't.
What I would like to explore a little bit is, like, of course, on different subjects, we're very different.
Yeah.
But it's like, and I think that I said last time, we don't agree on the facts. And you said, no, I think we agree on the facts. But I don't think we agree on the facts, because it's, for example, like I took this example, and for me, this was Hillary Trump in 2016.
Yeah.
And you can totally disagree, but try to see the analogy of it. Okay, let's say that Trump is 90% awesome. Let's say that.
Let's say that.
Or another person.
Yeah.
Like if you can't see, but before, like, for example, like black folks, for example, they loved Trump. Like, he was in like all the rap music and stuff like that. And like, so before 2015,
the hip hop community loved that guy. They still do to a certain extent.
Before 2015, there was no one that really hated Trump, or at least we didn't see that.
That's true.
But let's say that 90% of Trump is amazing.
Yeah.
Near 10% of him that is really bad. Right? Because we are all, John is not 100% awesome.
No.
There's parts of John that is really bad.
Yeah.
Or it could have been a lot better.
We can go wake up my wife and she'll tell you about that 10%.
You can wake up my wife and she'll
we should
tell
get them
you.
On this show.
So that's reality, right?
Yes.
And then you have Hillary.
Yeah.
And in my mind, she's 90% pure evil bad. And there's 10% good.
Yeah.
Right? But don't think Trump and Hillary now, but take the 90-10, 90-10. Media focuses on what they want to focus on.
Yes.
If they focus on the 10% on Trump, which is true, it is not factually wrong.
Right.
But it's true.
Yeah.
But from, like, of a picture of that person is totally false.
It all depends on what they want to shine the light on. I can agree with you on this. Yeah.
So for example, like, so when you talk about Trump, for example, if you see the 10% of Trump, he is the purest evil as you can see. And you see 10% of Hillary. She's the most wonderful politicians that have ever been. But it was not that what you focus on was wrong, but you left things out.
Right. Good point.
And that is where I find, like, so when we have a discussion and we come to such different conclusions, I think it has a lot to do with, okay, do we see the 10% that we want to see?
Yeah.
Do we see the 100%? And none of us see the 100%. Like,
no.
Like, none of us see, but can we see more of it?
I think we can always see more of it, and that's why I encourage people to make efforts to find out more. Don't sit in your little news bubble. Don't just watch CNN or MSNBC or Fox News. You have to pull your news, if you're interested in the news, if you're interested in politics and social issues, pull your information from different sources. Now, I can barely stomach to sit and listen to Thomas Sowell. But if I want to hear an opposing view to test my prevalent views, he's a great person for me to listen to. That's why I watch Joe Rogan's podcast, because sometimes he brings on some people that I think are absolutely wrong, but I want to hear what they say to balance, to test my own thoughts and beliefs, opinions and perceptions. I think that doing things like that is very important, because we can be more aware of the 90% or the 10%, and that all-encompassing awareness, which causes us to come to our own conclusions. It's so important that we, if the light is brightest right there, let's look in the shadows a little bit. Let's look in that uncomfortable part, the part that we don't agree with. Let's look at it, analyze it, talk about it. because there's always a learning moment, always a teachable moment in that.
And what you see is like, for example, Joe Rogan, he has a lot of different guests on.
Yeah.
And what is weird is that 5 years ago, very few conservatives would listen to Joe Rogan.
Right, exactly. And now
it's, and also Bill Maher, they said that.
Yes, yeah.
But the thing is that what is amazing with the long conversation is that you humanizes people, and you humanizes the enemy in a way.
Yeah.
It's so easy to kind of, well, you believe that, you're totally way out.
Yeah.
You're evil.
Yeah, and that's what I think is wrong today.
Yeah.
Is, I look at it, it's quite the opposite, and I would never know these things if I didn't talk to people. Talking to you and I disagree on a few things, but you're a wonderful person. I call you friend and brother. And I think a lot of people are missing out on some of the beauty in the dynamic of humanity because they just automatically shut off the opposition.
Yeah.
They see no worth in opposition whatsoever. We mentioned Joe Rogan. I was just listening while I was getting ready this morning. This episode's maybe a few weeks old. He was talking to, let me just pull up his name again. I keep forgetting this guy's name. Comin Hughes. Have you heard of him?
No.
He is, he's a Black American, but he's a darling of the political right. And in that little snippet that I watched while I was getting ready, he said to Joe Rogan.
Just a small comment on that. Because you had some of those small comments that, like when you say a darling of the political right, you already frame that person for a lot of people.
Yeah, but I'm going to explain. I say that in preparation to what I'm going to say after. Listen, okay, I call him a darling of the political right, but I specifically listened to that episode because I want to hear what the brother has to say. And he said one thing, and I'm so glad I heard it, even though I vehemently disagree with it. He said that that Black Americans are against having voter ID. And I don't believe that that's true. I believe that the fact of the situation is, and here's where the nuance comes in, and here's how hearing someone else's position on an issue is very important. I believe that Black Americans want equal access to voting, and having voter ID would actually promote equality when it comes to access, to voting. And I have an example in how easy it is to vote here in Norway. They send me this thing in the mail. It's got a barcode that identifies me as someone who can legally vote in Norway. I take it to the voting center, which is a 3-minute drive from my house. I show them the barcode and my driver's license, and I vote, and the whole thing takes 10 minutes. That is the beauty of having voter ID. And I would never even really think of formulating that response to what this gentleman says about voter ID if I hadn't heard him say what he said. So therein lies the value in listening to what the opposition has to say.
What was his position?
That all people on the left, especially Black Americans, are against voter ID. And I don't think that's true. I think what the majority of the left and Black Americans specifically are against is the unequal access to getting.
How is it hard for a Black person? Because I don't know. How is it hard for a Black person in U.S.?
For some Black people.
Well,
I can explain it. Yeah.
Yeah. How is it hard? It's
difficult for a lot of Black Americans. If you think of, and again, Black Americans are not a monolith.
How is it harder for example, some Black than some white, for example?
I'll tell you. Because if we look at the state of Texas, for example, no, let's not look at Texas. Let's look at Alabama and, don't get me wrong. Was it South Carolina or North Carolina? Anyway, one of those states, North or South Carolina and Alabama, there's actually Supreme Court rulings that said that their methods of closing voting stations in black neighborhoods, their methods of closing state ID where you can actually go and get a state ID, which you need to vote. You need some form of ID, driver's license or a state ID. And the Republican-led legislatures of these states are deliberately closing voting locations and ID locations for driver's licenses or state IDs, specifically closing them in black neighborhoods.
Before an election?
That is a judicial fact that they did that. They actually got in trouble with the Supreme Court, and those procedures have been reversed legally.
I think that everyone that is fair-minded would be against that.
Yes, but a lot of Republicans are not against that. They actually promote it. It's the Republicans in the state legislatures that are actually doing it.
I can only speak for myself. And I would be very...
Absolutely.
Like, what pisses me off is, for example, if you are okay with that, but you're against, for example, like in... there was a lot of... In 2020 election, I think it was.
Yeah.
No, was it 22? There was a lot of machines, like the registration machines, that only broke down in, for example, in Arizona with Carol Lake. Was a lot of machines that broke down in places with mostly on the election day, because they saw that Republicans, Democrats, they came out a lot before. They did a lot of more early voting.
Yeah.
And on the day of the election, there was a lot of machines that didn't work, especially in districts with a lot of Republicans. So both those are wrong. And if they are... So you can't be for one and against the other. So it has to be fair. So what we agree on is that elections has to be fair.
Yes.
Equal
access.
And for example, one thing that I want to take up, and I think we can agree on this.
Mm-hmm.
In 2000, Al Gore, he disputed the election against George W. Bush.
Yes.
And he conceded, but it took a long time. And they went up to the Supreme Court and stuff like that.
There was a long legal process.
2016, Hillary Clinton really never conceded. Like she still kind of came up, well, he's an illegitimate president, like years after.
She still says that to this day.
Yeah, in interviews. In 2000, I think it was Stacey Abrams, Congresswoman.
Georgia.
Yeah, she never conceded. Well, it was a rigged election and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In 2014, I think, or for example, Elizabeth Warren,
yeah,
and others came out and said that they had done a survey on the voter registration machines, and they said, like, these are hackable. We can't trust them.
Yeah,
that was mainstream from the Democrat side in 2014 and 12.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
it was not like Democrats were fighting for that, right?
But there's a difference.
No. But let me finish.
I will, and then I'll tell you what the difference is. Yeah.
So the Democrats fought that.
Yeah.
And now in 2020,
yeah,
I think it was 70% of Republicans didn't believe that the election was fair.
Yeah.
But it was also 15-20% of Democrats. And then you have, for example, like it has proven that, for example, like the Hunter Biden laptop, that the FBI held that back. They said it was Russian disinformation.
Wow.
No, but let me finish the point.
Yeah.
So they held that back, which they have done a lot of studies of Democrats that voted for Joe Biden in hindsight, and said, if I've known that, I would have never voted for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
The point with all this is that what I think we can agree on is that the trust of the American people in the electoral system is very, very low.
Yeah, it's never been lower. We can agree on that. It's
both
never
on
been
the
lower.
left and on the right, right?
Yeah.
So what should be the first thing that we did that everyone should agree on? Is to make it super transparent. So all the conspiracy theories that come out, okay, we
Agree,
should
100%.
we should go into the machines and make sure that you cannot hack them. And if they can be hacked, throw them on the ocean and go back to paper ballots and 1 day registration or 1 day election and stuff like that, and make it so as it was in years past.
Yeah.
So because, and I think that should be a political issue that everyone should agree on, because if the big part of the population don't trust the electoral system in a nation, you have destroyed democracy.
That's a problem. And I think I would say a few things, but I'll start by saying congratulations to Trump and the MAGA movement in destroying democracy, because this.
Okay, that was a cheap shot. Seriously, that was a cheap shot. Okay. Please,
yeah, but let me finish.
But what I just said, like take the examples.
Yeah. Okay.
You can disagree on examples, but the point is that
it should be transparent. It should be easier to vote. It should be transparent. Absolutely, couldn't agree with you more. So I would ask rhetorically then, why do the Republicans make it so difficult to vote? That's one question. Let me let that hang there for a second. Let me go back to what you were saying about how.
Well, if they I'm totally against that. They shouldn't make it hard.
Great. So we agree.
But for example, like who should be able to vote? It should be only citizens. You agree
totally
with that,
agreed.
Right?
There are some people on the left who think that immigrants without citizenship should be allowed to vote in federal elections. I think that's crazy.
I totally, like in Norway, for example, my wife, she's a landed immigrant. Mm-hmm. She can vote for the local, but not for prime minister.
Right.
Because, like, for example, we had a dance school of business, and we rented a facility from non-profit organization, right? And it was a small organization, and they had, they were just a pain in our butts. Mm-hmm. But they had 10 people on the board, and it was a democratic system. So we were thinking, do you know what? Why don't we just become members?
Yeah.
20 of us, and we take over and we sell it. We take over that organization and we sell the facility to us for 1 kroner. Mm-hmm. We could have done that.
Yeah.
And if you think about that, there has to be some who is going to be allowed to vote, and so we agree on that. So
citizenship is
only
vital
citizenship,
to that, yes.
Right?
But let me say something. You mentioned,
but let's figure out the things that we agree on now. So only citizenship should be able to vote.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Next.
Voting should be transparent.
Amen.
Voting should be easy for those who qualify. It should be very clear who qualifies, and then those who qualify, there should not be hindrances. There shouldn't be obstacles to someone who can vote legally being able to vote.
I agree.
Okay, great.
But it depends what do you mean with that, for example, because this is where we have to define what is easy. For example, like in Norway, I didn't vote ahead of this last election. Mm-hmm. And I had a meeting in Oslo, I had a sales meeting in Oslo, and I drove up and I was like, I hope that I get home by 9 o'clock, it closes then. Because I can't go in and vote in Hamar on the way up. I have to be at the place. Mm-hmm. That was not easy, but it's fair.
Right.
So what is easy and what is fair?
I'm thinking that it should be easy. For example, I believe in voter ID because that aids in making voting transparent. Yep. However, that path to getting an ID should not be hindrances in the way. So that's what I'm talking about. There shouldn't be things in the way.
100% agree with that.
So we agree. When it comes to voting, I think we pretty much agree. However, and maybe this is how we interpret the facts. You talked a little bit about how we don't really agree on what the facts are. The fact is, you are correct when you mention these Democrats who talked about, Hillary Clinton saying that the election was not fair. The lady from Georgia, same thing. Yeah, and you're right. They did say that. But one thing that was left out in what you said about that, and I think this is vital, this can erase the both sides thing between Democrats and Republicans when it comes to contesting elections. Stacey Abrams, Hillary Clinton, all of these Democrats that you mentioned, yes, they spoke out saying that the election was corrupted in some way, but they just stated their case. They didn't organize a maniacal army of followers to go out and do what happened on the steps of the United States Capitol building. That is to say that Trump and the MAGA following and other Republicans actually did that. That's the difference right there. That's why you can't both sides that. It's one thing for me to say, oh my gosh, this is unfair. It's something else for me to say, oh my gosh, this is unfair. Come here, hundreds and thousands of followers, and let's go to action against these people in a violent and illegal way.
Okay.
That's called insurrection. That's the
difference.
It is a difference.
But this is where, for example, like what I talked to early, 10%, 90%. Okay? I looked at the whole speech on Trump that day.
Which day? After
January 6th. The speech on the lawn there. And it was, I think it was over 1 million people. It was like crazy amount of people. Okay? One thing that, let's just try to take Trump out of the picture, Biden out of the picture.
That's going to be hard, but I like mental exercises. Let's try. Let's try that.
Okay. You have an election. Then you have one candidate, he sits in the basement and he has some videos. But listen, he has some videos. He has some videos out.
Yeah.
He has some rallies, and when you see the rallies picture, you have like 20, 100 people.
If that, sometimes.
If that, right? And he goes around, and he doesn't seem to be from the news places. He seems to be, yes, he's the answer. But when you see the population, and when you see like the Joe on the street, he doesn't draw crowds.
No.
Okay. Nothing.
No.
And then you have this other guy or a candidate, and he draws tens and thousands of crowds. You have when he comes down and is going to go to this a speech, he has people lining down the street with flags for miles and miles and miles.
Yep.
Right? And then you come to election day.
Yep.
And then you already have kind of people saying that this, like you had people already saying that what I think is going to be is that it's going to be, you're going to see this one candidate go up in front, and then it's going to stop, and it's going to tickle, and the lead is going to go down and down, 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 and at the end it's going to switch.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the story that the people have.
Yeah.
And when you look at this guy, he throws it out of the park. He has the best economy ever. At least that's what they think. Well, that's the people that, it doesn't matter what is true here. The people that follows him thinks that, right?
Okay, I can give you that.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you have this other guy that he doesn't seem to be, he has tried to be president a few times before, and he has never really been popular.
No, wasn't his time then.
Right. And then it comes to election. And this guy that seems to have been kicking it out of the park, he loses with...
Yeah.
And also then when you see like the election night results, it's like...
Of course.
It stops.
There's a reason for that, though.
No, okay, but
there is.
Imagine the people sitting there that are already untrustworthy to the government.
Yep.
Because what we at least can agree on, I think, and I think also a lot of left people can agree on this, is that it was the media that tried to be non-bias
Yeah.
went out the window.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
it's so polarized.
It's like, so you have most of the media, most of the mainstream media, and that we can also agree on.
Absolutely. When I was a kid,
totally against this guy.
Yeah.
Most of the system was totally against this guy. And then I want to
against Trump, you're talking
yes.
about. Yeah.
And what I want to say to what I've been thinking about, because I think that what we do in a lot of these things. Have you seen the movie Hunger Games?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Who's the real enemy in the Hunger Games?
Oh, wow. I'm not that familiar. I've only seen it once.
It's the leader. It's District 1, the leader that, like, you have one district.
Yeah.
And you have a leader there.
Yeah.
And then you have 12 other districts.
Right.
That are all fighting.
Yeah.
And they're fighting each other.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that they're fighting each other, but the real enemy is this one.
Right.
What I do believe happens a lot. We don't know who the real enemy is. And I think the real enemy is making me and you fight.
I would agree with that. It's very strange. I was going to say earlier, when I was a kid, I couldn't imagine the idea. I don't think anyone could have imagined the idea of a leftist or a Democrat supporting news channel or a Republican supporting news channel. It was just a news channel, and it told the news in a fair and balanced way. That's out the window. You're very correct in that. But that's why I am a proponent of what we are doing now, dialogue, because dialogue and pulling information from different sources, even if you don't agree. As I said, this young black gentleman, this darling of the right on Joe Rogan, who is saying these things. I like to listen to people like that because there's always something to be learned, if nothing else, how the political and social opposition is thinking and talking. And it helps me to sharpen my beliefs or change them. I'm not afraid of changing what I believe based upon new facts. But what I want to say is, in the face of what Trump and the MAGA movement did.
On January 6th, you mean?
On January 6th, and the leading up to January 6th. Of course, those Trump supporters, and let's just look at a fact, too. Most of them are just rabid Trump fans, and they just aren't going to listen to anyone or anything else other than Trump and Fox News. Fact.
So hold on. They're also going against Fox News.
Now they are, yeah, because Fox News is kind of going against the or shining a light on the realities of Trumpism, and Trump doesn't like it. MAGA doesn't like it. That's a whole other discussion. But hold on one second. So when the MAGA,
just one comment. Just
sure.
Be careful with, and I see it. I do it myself. Let's have a conversation and try not to polarize.
I'm not polarizing anything. I want people to come together.
But for example, like when you say, and you said that, like, I took up some quotes from last time. Mm-hmm. Like when you say, like, a darling of the right, that is polarizing, right? Like for example,
is Hillary Clinton a darling of the left?
No, but for me saying, but like the word darling of the right is polarizing. For example, if I say libtard. It's polarizing. If I say woke, oh, he's a woke, it's polarizing.
I want to say this, out there, if you just say these things and you let it hang and you use it as a dagger, that's polarizing. Yeah. But when I say he's a darling of the right, and I say it with a twinkle in my eye and a smile, there's no weaponizing of that.
No, but when you...
I'm being slightly
But for example, like when you say like the MAGA, like they are...
Are they not close-minded politically and socially? They almost religiously follow Trump. Hey, hold on, let's just put that on pause. Let me finish my thought here. When the MAGA movement is such that it is, when
how do you think that is?
Hold on, I will certainly get to that, but let me finish my point. When they think the things that they think, when they listen to every word that Trump says, and Trump is purposely manipulating facts, manipulating the reality, and manipulating these MAGA followers that he has. When those people don't understand, first of all, that Democrats in large numbers traditionally vote early. even more Democrats than usually voted early for the 2020 election.
Yep.
When Trump actually said in the lead up to the 2020 election, he told his people, don't go out there and vote early. So that fact that the Democrats in an even larger degree voted early and the Republicans or Trump followers in a larger degree did not vote early than normal, you've got this massive influx of Democrat votes coming in for Joe Biden. And then those votes are not counted. When you vote early, it's not counted right away. They get counted starting on Election Day, if I'm not mistaken.
I
do believe. So when you have all of these Trump people that did not vote early, but they're voting now, of course it's going to. Hold on a second. I'm going to finish this. Of course, when you put the numbers up on CNN and Fox News and MSNBC of the state by state and how many votes are coming in, of course, in the beginning it looks like Trump is winning. That happens every election. It always looks like the Republican is ahead, but then as they start counting all of the early votes, it flips.
Fair.
It's very fair. Yeah. But hold on. That explains the numbers and why it flipped like that. Not
some of the things that it's.
But I also have to give credit to Trump. I also have to,
and then it comes.
I don't know the mechanics of it all, but basically that's what happens. Yeah. And then when Trump, he's quite a wily man. That means wise. He's quite a wise man, and he knows the rabidity of the MAGA movement. So he takes that fact that Democrats voted early and Republicans did not. He takes that fact and he uses it to his advantage to whip up the rabidity even more of the MAGA movement. And Trump hints at cheating to start. And then when he sees that he's going to lose, he no longer hints at cheating. He states that there was cheating from the Democrat side. And of course, his MAGA movement is going to believe that. That's what happened, Hans Jakob. Am I wrong?
To a certain degree, but
am I wrong?
One thing that you say now that it's you're telling a great story, but
I'm just talking facts.
No, but listen.
What you said was correct. The numbers did look crazy.
I'll come with.
But I'm just giving you. I'm just giving you the information, the parentheses that was not spoken on.
I'll come with another fact. Is that, and that has come out the last few years.
Sure.
There's like voter laws in a state can only be changed by, is it the governor, or there's one person that can change the laws. Someone else cannot change the laws. Like the Constitution says that and a lot of the laws, the voter laws, because of COVID, was changed in a lot of states, and it was illegally changed.
You say illegally, but the Supreme Court said it was legal. Trump challenged that.
It didn't go through the right channels.
What didn't go through the right channels?
It was not the right person that changed the laws. So
Trump challenged that in court. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court.
Again, let's say that was a lot. Okay, remember, narrative is important here. So let me say what the why so many MAGA people believes that the election of 2020 was totally fake.
Let's hear it.
So let's try to give them the due. Give the devil a due, right?
Sure.
So you have all these machines that have proven themselves in the past to be untrustworthy, and the Democrats have said the same. So there's no dispute there. Then you have COVID. A lot of people, and when you see the vitriol anger and the hatred towards Trump from the political right too, like the establishment, and that is where I find, because I do believe, like this is where I think hope in one way that you can come to a realization for. I'm praying secretly for this. I believe that if you take the Hunger Games, I believe that one day you will see that there will Democrats and Republicans and the elites that were our true enemy. Trump was never a part of that. He wanted to take down the elite. And
so he said?
Well, but what you can see on proof, no one elites like him. no one in the establishment likes him. Like he's a threat to them.
Sure.
And so if you see it more like that, they will do whatever they can to keep their establishment as it is now. So what for common folks is that Trump is okay. He can be our leader and take down the establishment that has been up there for years and years and years. They created wars, like in Republicans, they have been awful. Like, for example, George Bush lying that there was mass destructive weapons with Saddam Hussein, and they launched the war into Iraq.
There's a lot of people on the left who want change at the top as well, but not with somebody like Donald Trump.
Okay, but that is okay. But then, so what if the problem is the system and not necessarily the
system is corrupted? I think we agree on that.
Yeah.
Where we disagree is that Donald Trump is the man to fix it.
Well,
that man is
okay.
That man is at least as corrupt as the very system that he wishes to change.
Believe. That's what I
believe.
That's fine.
Absolutely.
But let me say.
So when he gets indicted 91 times, is that just a mistake then? Is that the system just going after an innocent man?
Okay.
Is that what that is?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. Listen.
Wow.
Listen. Okay.
I got to hear this.
Okay.
Let me adjust myself.
He has taken 91 times.
Yeah.
That's like throwing things on the wall and hoping that something sticks. Okay, let me.
Single case is quite solid. Let's see in the end what he is actually convicted of.
Okay,
he's indicted 91 times. Let's see what he gets convicted of.
Okay.
He didn't lie about his business, his income for his business, the value of his assets and things like that. He did not lie about that. Is that what you think?
Okay, but let me take that.
Can you answer that? Yes or no?
Let me take that.
Please.
Let me take that. For example, the judge that said that he lied about that said
it's not a judge who said he lied about it. It's
the guy. No, listen. The judge that took up that case, he had the estimator, like they did an estimation of Mar-a-Lago, and they said it was $10 million. You had
but the judge didn't do that. The judge didn't make that evaluation.
Well, he was working
That's independent
on the case.
Assessors.
Okay.
That's independent assessors
listen,
that do that.
The lot beside it that was not built was $20 million and a lot smaller. So do you believe, and for example, like when you come there, if I go to the bank, let me say this, I go to the bank and I ask for a loan.
Yeah.
And I say, well, my value is this much.
Yeah.
Whose responsibility is it to figure out what the value of my property is when I'm asking the bank for a loan?
Well, the bank will send out an independent assessor to figure that out.
Right. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what I say.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
So I'm trying. I fail to see your point.
Okay, so if Donald Trump lied about his value of the property, whose responsibility is to figure out his value of the property?
It is the bank's responsibility.
Oh, yes.
But can you not see that there was a? It has been laid out and proven that this was a deliberate effort, because then Trump, when he wanted to, when tax season came around, he would turn around and say, "Oh, it's not worth $100 million; it's worth only $10 million."
Okay,
so that he has to pay less taxes, and therein lies the criminal intent.
Do I believe that he can do that? Of course.
You think that's legal? It's not legal in America. That's not legal. Okay. Period. No, it doesn't matter whether we like it. It's not legal.
Listen.
Because I would like to do that as well, but it's not legal.
Well, the thing is that
he's being indicted for a crime.
Listen to me, please. Let me finish my.
Absolutely, do it.
Well, you're jumping in and not listening.
Do it.
Okay. In a financial system, in a tax system, for example, it's rules, and then you have morality, and you have the rules of the law.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason why a lot of the big companies make it a lot better than the small companies is because they know the loopholes. It's a game to play.
Absolutely.
So if someone does and it's a game.
Of course it is.
And when you play Monopoly, for example, you're playing to win.
Absolutely.
when
Businessmen and women are playing to win.
When you land on
Trump
my
is playing to win.
Yes, and
Yes.
when you land on my street,
gotta pay.
I can be compassionate to you. But if I'm playing to win, I'm not going to be compassionate. I'm
Right.
going to be ruthless.
Right.
It's a game to play.
But
So
within
if
the rules, that game has rules.
Okay. But I don't believe that he played against the rules. For example, like when he gave a value of his own property, if that was and I think that he can brag a little bit too much about the value of the property?
Oh, a little bit.
Yes. I think
a little bit.
Oh yes, he could totally brag. He could make it's the most expensive property, it's the most valuable property in the world.
But
He
what
could
you're-
say that
What what you're downplaying is the fact that he would then turn around and illegally, according to the law.
Okay, what
hold
he
on a second.
says,
Now,
it
hold on. I'm going to
doesn't
finish
matter
this. Now, I'm going to
because-
finish.
no.
He turns around, and then that same property that he says is worth $100 million. Oh, now it's only $10 million, so that he
Okay.
can pay less taxes. That's
Okay,
illegal.
whose
That's
responsibility is it to figure out the value of the property?
And he got caught, and that's
Okay.
why he's indicted for that.
But whose responsibility is it? Is it him?
He
Can
got caught.
Can I say that? Oh, this pillow is worth $100 million?
If you say that and the bank agrees, then it's worth $100 million.
No, the
But then-
bank has to agree. A bank has to make their own assessment.
I just told
of this.
you, if the bank makes an assessment and agrees, then that's
then
what
I
it's
say-
worth.
and then I
if
say-
you turn around when
Yeah.
it's tax season
No, it's
and you
only
say it's
$10 million.
That's the illegal act.
Okay,
that is
but
the
then,
deceptive
but
act.
Isn't it then isn't it then the responsibility of the tax to come and say?
And that is exactly what happened, and that
Okay.
is why he is indicted.
Okay.
Can you not see that, my friend?
No, I can't, because it should. First of all,
I think you just see a fact that you just don't want
Okay.
to admit because you love Trump.
well, is it right and wrong? Is it
It's
in
illegal,
a gray?
period. It's illegal.
Okay.
The law, if I were to do
Okay.
that, I would get in trouble.
Okay,
Why
let's-
should he not?
Okay. Let's do that.
Excuse me.
Now,
If-
no. Let me continue here. You are for equal
Equal protection
under the law and
Amen.
equal. If you
Equal
do something
enforcement of the law, equal consequence
exactly,
according to the law.
okay, then
Then what? Trump should be indicted as he
let's
is.
see some of the people. Let's see, for example, like Trump is indicted for having classified documents in Mar-a-Lago.
Among 90 other things, but yes.
But that's one of the things, right?
Yes. That's one of the 91. Yeah.
Who else had classified documents? And there is a
Okay,
difference.
here comes the both sides thing.
No,
Go ahead.
there is a difference
Yeah.
between a president, because a president can declassify without going to Congress or anything like that. He can just declassify. It's declassified.
When he's president. Yes.
When he says that it's declassified, it's declassified,
When
right?
he's president. Yes.
So that's the only person in the government in the United States that can do that, right?
I believe that is correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Who else had classified documents in their possession?
Joe Biden.
And others,
And
but
others.
Joe Biden.
And others. But Joe Biden
Yeah.
is among them. Yes.
Yeah.
And?
Why isn't he being followed?
Can I answer?
And no, and then
I have an
I have
answer?
a ton more.
Yeah, but let's take it one at a time. I have an answer for that.
I'm not saying. I want to see on the big, because your point was there's 91 cases against Donald Trump. There must be something here.
Tom Pence. That's not what I'm
Okay.
saying. No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
But my point is, I believe that the elite are so afraid of Donald Trump that they are willing to do anything to get him.
Quite possible. But in this case, I want to address this thing about Joe Biden and Mike Pence having classified
then
documents.
another thing.
I'm going to address that real quick. They
Well, I
had
don't care
classified documents. No, because you both sidesed it. You know, we're talking about equal application of the law. And Joe Biden and Mike Pence, and I don't like Mike Pence, but I'm going to stand up for him here. Both of them said, oh my gosh, I have classified documents. Here, FBI, please, Federal Archives, please come. Hold on, I'm going to finish this. Please come and look. They came, they looked. Everything was turned over, and they cooperated, thereby removing all aspects of criminal intent. Did Trump do that? No. He hid them. He lied about having them. He lied about having them again and again and again, and then he still hid them, and then he lied again. There is the difference. That shows
Okay, so
criminal
it's-
intent.
so
I'm
only
a former police officer. I've
so
worked in
only
the legal
intent
system,
is the
so I know
important
these
thing.
things about criminal intent.
Okay, so the intent is the important thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go further. Hillary Clinton deleted 30,000 emails, and it was a lot of classified, and she had her own thing in her basement, her own what do you call it, a server in her basement.
So they say yes.
Yeah. So, well,
I don't
okay,
know.
am I
haven't
there?
really
Are you
followed-
there? Well, all we're
my
talking
point
about
is,
here.
Yeah, my point
that
is I didn't really follow that case, but yes, that's the
Yeah.
narrative. Yes,
Okay.
she deleted.
She is still
33,000.
walking free. There was a guy
Big difference.
working on a submarine. He took a picture of himself in the submarine and sent it to his mom.
Yeah.
He was put in jail.
Yeah.
My point here is that there's so much corruption in the US. If you have the right people, you go free. If you have the right friends, you go free.
Very often that is
And
quite
if
true.
you don't,
Absolutely.
and you say
Absolutely.
you use the same argument, for example, against blacks, that blacks are more likely to be indicted, for example. So what
Because
we
that's
agree
true.
on,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
we agree on, is that there should be justice should be blind.
Absolutely. There's even that wonderful statue of the
Yes.
Lady Justice.
Justice should be blind.
Absolutely, but it's not.
And another thing is that, for example, and this is where I think that there's a big difference between Trump and everyone else. In KGB, like in Soviet Union, they said, show me the man and I'll find you the crime. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Like I did
A
military.
thorough police investigator can actually do that. Make
Yes.
an innocent man guilty.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, for example, in Norway, we have this kind of law book, Norske lover, Norwegian laws,
Yep.
right? I break some of them without knowing it all the time, right? If you really wanted to take me, if the government had a vendetta against
Absolutely.
me,
They
they
would get
could
it.
take
Yep.
me, right? So, but listen here.
Let's not forget about criminal intent, though.
Well, even
If you're
I
breaking,
had,
if you're breaking
like, for
Norwegian
example,
law, you're not doing it on purpose with criminal
well,
intent. Well,
sometimes I am in a hurry and I want to get home a little to the right time.
yeah,
Is that a criminal intent when I
understand.
break the speed limit?
I understand, but most people who
Okay,
are doing those kind of
listen,
things,
listen.
there's no
but
criminal intent.
listen here. So you have that. Then you have, like for example, when I was in the military, I went to military police. So I have some of the police.
Oh, you were military police. I didn't know that.
So
Interesting.
And there we learn about, in Norwegian it's called skjellig grunn til mistanke. It's like,
Yes.
it's more than 50%.
Reasonable doubt.
Yeah, reasonable doubt. That means that if two people walk down the street and you know for sure that one of them has some illegal stuff on them, you don't have the right to take them because it's not more than 50% likeliness that it's him or him. You just know that it's 100% one of them, but it's only 50% likeliness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you do investigation, and now it's like it has come out that the FBI was following Donald Trump in his also before he became president and also after he became president.
I'm sure there's a reason for that.
It doesn't matter the reason.
Oh, it most certainly does.
But
anyway,
but listen, like if you, this is where I find hard, and I see it on my side too, just as bad. Are we willing to, okay, let's keep the principles. Justice should be blind.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter who does it. If it's my hero that does it, he should be just as much punished as my enemy.
Yeah, but see, we on the left, most of us can say that. I see anyone on the left, when it comes to Hillary Clinton, they'll say if she has done something wrong and she's tried and convicted, then so be it. And case in point is she was interrogated for, 11 hours by a hostile Republican Congress for those hearings on Benghazi and this, that, and the other, and the emails and stuff.
The FBI guy, what was his? He said, "Well, there's clearly that it was some illegal things going on here, but we can't find intent."
Yes.
And that is where, for example, the guy that sent the picture from the submarine, do you think he had an illegal intent?
I don't know. I don't know. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that case, but
sometimes it does. If I kill you, there's a punishment no matter what. If they can prove that I killed you with like malice, there's a bigger punishment.
Yes,
but there's
absolutely.
a punishment no matter what. Because
as there should be in the case of this guy on a submarine. As a military man, we both are military men. We know how serious. We know how serious.
Clinton that had 30,000.
Again, if
emails.
she had done something that was illegal and harmful to the United States, then I say she should have been convicted and given the appropriate punishment.
Okay.
All I can say is that she sat in front of those congressional interrogators for 11 hours, I believe it was. And that was just on that day. But there was all of the investigation before and since then. And she still walks free. I don't know if that's right or not, but I will say very clearly that if she is caught I don't have any rabid allegiance to Hillary Clinton. I don't particularly like her as a politician. So I don't have that rabid blinders on that says she's right in everything she does. And I think that is the danger of the MAGA movement and Donald Trump, because they are rabid and they do say that whatever he says and does is correct.
But let me say one thing. Here
Big
you
difference.
had after 6th of January, you had 60-year-old women that were taken down, that were confronted with the FBI coming to the door and taking them out in handcuffs. For example,
as they should have.
Have you seen the videos from inside? So, for example, like the guy with the horn, the QAnon guy.
Yep.
Do you see him?
Yes.
Does it seem like an insurrection? Does it seem like violence? Like when the police is guiding him and he stands on the pulpit and he prays for the police and he says, "Thank you, police, for opening the doors and showing us around." Does that guy deserve years in prison when you have a BLM and Antifa and stuff like that the summer before breaking down and torching a governmental building?
And when they took the people who organized, when they took the people,
very few of them were put in jail.
When they took the people who organized and clearly called for violence and destruction during the BLM protests, those people were treated as the rioters and criminals as they were, they should have.
What about
See,
the
I
ones
can say that.
What about the ones that torched the buildings?
I can say that if they should have been caught, taken, and arrested.
The 60-year-old woman.
I believe in protest without violence, destruction, or illegality. Those people who entered, let's think about this.
Okay.
They entered the Capitol building.
Take another one.
That is illegal.
Have you seen pictures? Or no, not pictures, videos
of
outside the Capitol building that day? Mm-hmm. Then you have policemen that take the barricades and they move them and they say, "Come on, come on, come on," to the people.
Those cops should be taken and removed from their jobs and looked upon as a fellow insurrectionist.
Okay, so the people,
a fellow rioter.
Okay, so the people that walked there. And there were so many Christians, for example, there. They came there and they stood around them praying for the Capitol. They prayed for the president, and they were like an old grandmas, like 60-year-old grandmas. They see this policeman and they open up the gate and the policeman said, "Come on, come on, come on in." And they walk there with their flag and they walk into the Capitol and they walk around. Should they be put in jail?
If they entered the Capitol building by illegal means.
No, the police just opened up the barricades.
They don't necessarily deserve a prison sentence. Well, okay, let me ask you this. If we can say that a grandma on January 6th should not be arrested because she had no criminal intent, she didn't hurt anybody, she didn't break anything, right?
Yeah.
There's a ton of brothers and sisters, and when I say that, I'm talking about anybody who cares about justice for black people and minorities who were at Black Lives Matter rallies that turned into riots, but they themselves were not rioters.
Okay, if
those people get condemned. But
if they didn't do anything, they shouldn't be put in jail.
Then we agree. But if someone did something illegal on January 6th, and that includes entering the Capitol building, then they should suffer the consequences. I don't
okay.
care if it's grandma who's 89 or great grandmother who's 100 years old. You do something like that.
For example, if someone broke in a door and kind of broke in a door and went through a window to come into a Capitol building,
get arrested. They should be charged.
Okay, that. And then it comes like, how much should they get punished? That's different.
There should be some nuance.
There should be like, that's not okay. That's vandalism. Yeah. But if someone walks in there, like this QAnon guy walks in there and he follows the police, like you saw the Tucker Carlson video, and also like one of the things that they didn't want, the January 6th committee, they didn't want there's 300,000 hours of footage or something like that. They didn't want the footage to come out. Why?
I believe that's a right-wing narrative. They want actually all of the footage.
Well, it didn't come out.
So, it didn't, because that's how many hours is that?
Okay, but some of the
all.
footage that came out, for example, Tucker Carlson, like the shaman, like the QAnon shaman, he walks in there. He should not be put in jail. He's just very calm. He says he's very respectful to police. The police is not saying you have to get out of here. You have to.
Let the shaman go. Let him out.
Yeah, and how many more people? For example, like if you the rotunda, like you have cameras there. It's on January 6th, and you have like ropes that shows like where you should walk. People are even sticking within the rope, and they're walking around and taking pictures.
It is their entry that is criminal.
Okay,
doesn't matter how they got in, or if they followed. If they followed the red.
But if the police did them in,
then those police should also be looked upon as.
If the police open them in.
Those police should be looked upon
should the people that trusted the police and walked in, okay, we can go in.
It's been proven time and again that trusting the police is not always the right thing to do.
Okay, but should they be punished?
Sure, absolutely.
The people that
criminal entry is criminal entry. Period. Just like anybody in a Black Lives Matter rally, if somebody else broke a window to a department store and someone else just walks in, let me see what's going on. You know what? You're guilty of criminal entry.
But then we should do that with everyone.
Absolutely.
Okay. So everyone
processing under the law, equal protection.
Everyone that came into a place illegally, whatever, if they knew it or not, they should be prosecuted with the same extent of the law.
To the same extent of the law, but of course there is nuance in sentencing and things like that. Punishment should vary depending upon the gravity of their offense. Absolutely.
With this January 6th, they've been sitting in there now for a couple of years.
Some of the people who have been arrested,
They've not had a trial yet?
Yeah.
How is that okay?
It's okay if they have
without due process.
It's okay if they have an attorney who is delaying things. That never comes out in the right-wing narrative. These people are in there and they have attorneys, and their attorneys are deliberately dragging out the process.
Okay, well,
do you guys think of that? Do you think of that?
Don't throw me in there. You guys think of that. That is wrong.
I'm throwing you in with the people who just
don't throw me into.
Hold on. With the people. Do you not think that these people are being treated unjustly?
I think that the
do you think they're being?
Yes, totally.
Then you're one of those people who think they're being treated unjustly.
Yes.
And I'm telling you that you're missing out on something. And it's their attorneys.
I am.
Well, let me tell you what it is. Again, it is their attorneys who are dragging out the process.
It's just an attorney?
I don't think that it's just the attorney. Again, I'm quite familiar with the American justice system. Okay. There are huge issues in that.
So can we agree on...
It's huge. There are huge issues in that. But there are a ton of these people who are in jail right now. Not prison yet because they haven't been sentenced. But in jail. Because their attorneys are dragging out the process.
I've seen some interviews with the people in jail.
Yeah,
they are worse treated than anyone in prison.
I don't believe that.
No, you don't believe that, but according to them, they're saying that.
Sure they are.
Okay.
Sure they are.
Okay. So then we are again back to the problem. It's like what I find, and that is things that sucks, is that, okay, you are on this side, so we're okay with judging you guys, but we don't give the same kind of the standard to our guys doing the same thing.
That's not true. That's not what we're doing here.
Well, for example,
I think that if someone has broken the law, they should be
but
arrested.
then it's
they should get their day in court, and then something should happen.
But for example, also like when political persecution is the one of the worst thing that you can have, because you have the power of the government behind you, and you agreed.
Yeah, that's a horrible thing.
If I wanted to take you as a governmental official,
they can do it. They'll find something. Absolutely.
With everyone.
But they're making it kind of easy, these MAGA people on January 6th. They were there as part of this insurrection.
Again,
are they not?
Can we agree? Can't we agree that any political persecution should be taken off?
Absolutely.
Okay. Then we can agree on that.
With January 6th is not political persecution.
I totally disagree with that.
And there's where we disagree.
For example, like with January 6th, I do believe. Have you seen Dinesh D'Souza made a movie? And this is a documentary. It's called
I haven't seen it.
2,000 Mules.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen that. Yeah.
See that?
I want to
proof. Actually. Is proof on tape of the drop boxes, and they did when you have your you're walking around with your phone, and you have it's GPS tracking on your phone, right?
Yeah.
So they got the data and of geo tracking on people that went to drop boxes, and they could find, and they had of course there's thousands and thousands of people that are within like a short distance of the Dropbox, right?
Yeah.
You put out geofence.
Yeah.
So they had to kind of...
A Dropbox for voting.
Voting.
Okay, gotcha.
So they had to make it a little harder. So, they had to be within, I think it was at least 10 Dropboxes in order to kind of qualify.
Okay.
Or to the same Dropbox 10 times.
Okay.
Okay? Because else you would get a lot more. So then they looked, and then you have video surveillance on some of them. And according to law, there should be video surveillance on every Dropbox, because this is like a sacred thing, right?
Sure, voting is. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you saw a lot of people going from one Dropbox to another Dropbox to another Dropbox and dropping off ballots. And it was like some of them came with stacks of ballots, right? What you don't see is like who did they vote for and everything like that. It doesn't matter. What matters is that there was clearly fraud in those drop boxes, and they only did it in one state because they didn't have resources to do it in all of America, right? So that is like it's proof, like video proof. And there's geo-tracking proof, and you can see it, just see it. And so you have people that believe that narrative, right?
Yeah.
Then you have, and another thing. This is one thing. For example, I do believe, and this is where we disagree. But if the 2020 election was totally fraud and was taken over by an evil people that wanted to overturn the will of the people.
Yeah.
If that is true, what should be the response?
I believe that legally, if there was proven to be significant fraud that overthrew the will of the people, then the election would not have been verified.
But what if the people that are in charge to verify everything and stuff like that don't want the will of the people? What should you do?
Yeah, I don't know the constitutional process, but there is certainly a process to go in.
Well, the Constitution does say that if there's a government that has, what is the wording, kind of surpassed the will of the people or taken, the people has the right and the duty to stand up to such a government.
Yeah, and in this case...
So my point.
What's your point?
If that narrative is true, and we can disagree on the narrative.
The narrative that the will of the people has been okay.
Yeah, that the will of the will of the people was not listened to, and someone tried to steal an election.
Yeah.
Right. If that narrative is true, is anything of what Donald Trump and his supporters did it go too far or didn't it go enough? Okay, listen. So if that is true,
If. That's a huge if.
Yes, that is a huge if that is true.
Yeah.
I don't believe that anyone could say that what Donald Trump was wrong or that what his support was wrong. But if it wasn't true,
Yeah.
they're totally in the wrong. Right? Can we agree
side I'll give a thumbs up to.
But can we agree on that?
I think we can. Yeah,
Yes.
on the surface.
So then, the most important question here, and a lot of people have my view on this.
Sure.
So the most important question is, for example, if I was an American, would I trust the 24 election?
If you are an American who follows Trump narrative, i.e. MAGA narrative, then you will not trust the 2024 election.
Remember,
congratulations to Trump. He has gotten his followers to believe that the upcoming election, before it even starts, is going to be corrupted.
He has caused
them to believe that. Some Democrats, of course, don't trust.
But my point is,
absolutely.
What if? Have you even imagined?
I probably have.
What if that narrative is true? That there was so much cheating. For example, like you had Epstein. He's Robert Epstein or something like that. He's a Democrat.
Yep.
He's a computer scientist.
Yep.
And he does scientific research on subliminal messaging.
Yeah.
And he said, and he's a Democrat, and he's just going through the data.
Yep.
And he said, for example, what Google and Facebook did, they changed in 2016. This was when Trump won.
Yeah.
They said like Google and Facebook changed at least 2 to 3 million votes towards Democrat.
What do you mean changed?
For example, in 2016, if you Googled how to, the first suggestion was how to vote for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Okay? So how to, and the suggestion how to vote for Hillary Clinton. Remember, this is a Democrat saying this, so trust me.
Yeah.
Search him up. He has some amazing. Even if you're not a Democrat, or it doesn't matter.
I'm concerned with the facts.
This is concerning with our elections, and even if we have free will anymore.
What does he say? What did he say?
So, and then you say that, okay, for example, how to vote for Donald. The suggestion come how to vote for Donald Duck. This was in 2016 election.
But what do you mean how to vote for Donald? I don't understand.
Okay, like if you Googled how to vote.
Ah, okay. A Google search. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Got it.
So how to vote. So then in order for how to, then it comes to how to vote for Hillary Clinton as number one suggestion. Just the suggestion box where you put the news feeds, where you put like pro stories for a candidate to non-pro stories for a candidate has huge impact, because most people, they're not as interested as me and you in American politics, for example.
Most people aren't.
So in order to make the decision, it's like, well, I guess I have to make a decision. So how to, and then they did like, and what Google did, because this guy, he hired a lot of people, and they sat on different computers and different IP addresses, because what Google can is that they can, when you search for something, how to, and then it comes up suggestions, that only comes up that one time.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can't kind of go back and trace it and make sure that it happened. You have to do it in real time. You have to check it.
But how did all this affect the election?
Well, for example, like he positive source to negative source. What comes out the first suggestion, for example, on Google search? That has a huge impact, and what he did is like he has done on other things like research that doesn't have to do with election. So he saw from his research that at least 2 to 3 million people went over to Democrats in 2016 election. And he said 2020 election would be a lot worse, and 2024 election would be a lot worse. And that would, my point is that if that was on the other shoe, that you would see that a lot of big tech would be very pro Republican side, for example. You would raise up and see the concern, right? And then for another thing is that
I'm not following what you. I don't really understand what the point is.
The point is that big tech has a huge impact on the votes, and most of your elections is like it's a few million votes difference that who wins and who loses. So
you're saying big tech was in to
they have
help Trump in 2016?
No,
and
help
hurt him
Hillary.
in 2020?
Help Hillary.
To help Hillary in 2016.
Yeah. So they won. So they got a lot more votes than they should have gotten.
Big tech is a huge. I'm not going to try to say anything against that. Big tech is a huge lobby, and big tech is going to throw in for whichever candidate they think is going to give them the best tax breaks, the best profit opportunities, and things like that. So did that happen? I'm sure it did. I know you're not lying, but the effectiveness of it is of course quite effective. But I don't see anything unusual in the scope of things, because big tech, big business, period, wealthy Americans, period, throw their money and support behind the candidate that they think is going to give them the best. So I don't see that's such an unusual thing. No, I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Well, what is unusual with that is that, for example, if historically, this is how I've heard it, is that you have 30% of Americans that are conservatives, and it has also been like this back to Civil War.
Yeah.
30%, you have 30% progressive, or like Republican liberal, or Democrats. You have 40% in the middle.
Yeah.
The 30% never move.
Right.
It's all about the fight about the 40%.
About those independents, those floaters.
Right?
Yeah.
Those floaters.
Yeah.
So if big tech can, without you knowing, because that's the thing. For example, like they send out Facebook alert on the day of election. They sent it out at one specific time, and they know that at that specific time there was more Democrats at home, not at work, that could kind of respond to that.
Is there something illegal or unethical about that?
Wouldn't you say it? Because
I'll say this. I think that the lobby
if that can change from your candidate winning, if it was told a level playing field, I could sit on my room and I could press a button and I could turn it towards my candidate, and your candidate lost.
There are probably methods of doing that on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Wouldn't you
and whatnot.
think that would be a huge? Wouldn't you think that would be the death of democracy?
I think that the whole lobbyist profession should be removed. Should be removed from American politics. In that sense, I love the Norwegian system where money plays a much, much, much more insignificant role.
Yeah, it should be.
The money and the whole lobby thing in the States, where you have candidates who don't even really have to think about politics. They think, okay, who is going to support me financially? And that's the way I'll vote. Yeah. End of story. I think that's wrong. Yes. I think that goes a long way towards the corruption of democracy. Yes. The American government, and I'm saying the American government, period, regardless of who's in charge, is corrupted by the lobby.
Exactly.
The lobbyists.
And so my point in the beginning here, where you're coming around.
No, I'm not coming around. I've been there. I agree.
But we are, I think, to us, not as bad, but to a certain extent we're living in Hunger Games. And you have the lobbying. They have a lot more power than you and me will ever have.
Yeah.
Right?
And they know it, and they certainly abuse it.
And we think that our vote matters. And what they can do is, for example, big tech can switch a button and can, you won. Oh, you won.
Well, I don't think it's that direct. They can certainly influence to a large degree.
And that should be illegal.
I totally agree.
Okay.
Absolutely. Whether they're doing it for a Republican or doing it for a Democrat.
So we have a lot of things we agree on.
We sure do. However, MAGA movement is a bunch of rabiat.
And that is where you are totally wrong, because I'm a MAGA. Do I seem like radical to you?
In the sense that of course, within the MAGA movement, there's a lot of nuance. Just like among Democrats, there's the super, almost communist leftist.
Yeah.
And then there's a more reasonable, so-called reasonable, little leaning towards libertarian center Democrat. So, of course, there's a lot of nuance.
So when you throw
I don't see how, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Direct answer, please. I love you, man. Direct answer, please. You know what? If that coffee is gone, then there's hot water and the powder coffee down there.
Okay.
Was I rude and took the last of the coffee? I'm sorry. Let me ask you this. The MAGA movement, okay. They, in the beginning, were ultra clear in their connection to all things Christian, right?
Yes.
Now, I don't think they are that any longer.
How?
Or less so. And if they're still as ultra-Christian as they were in the beginning, then my question or my statement will turn into a question, and the question will be, how can that be? And I say this because I see absolutely nothing of Christianity or Christ in the MAGA leader, Donald Trump.
Okay.
Judge not, lest ye be judged.
I would love
However,
to answer this.
The Bible says that, and amen to that. However, the Bible doesn't ask you to be a blind fool.
Nope.
And I don't see anything that has to do with Christianity or Christ in that man. So how make that fit, please? How does that fit?
You're going to regret that you opened this door.
No, I'm going to love it because if you say something that proves me, I don't know, wrong or misinformed or less than knowledgeable, then I'm going to appreciate it because I will have learned something.
Okay.
Okay? Good luck.
Let's take... okay, now I'm going to speak out from me as a Christian and why I would, if I lived in the U.S., would be a MAGA.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this doesn't fit for everyone, but I think it fits for a lot of people.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
I have a biblical worldview. That means that I believe that we were created. That means that humans, no matter what, if I disagree with them, if I hate what they stand for, if they're living in sin or not, they have a divine spark, so every human being has an intrinsic value.
I can get down with that. Absolutely.
That does not mean, and that also means that there is something called truth. There is something called not truth.
Yes.
There's nothing that is my truth.
Yes.
There's truth and there's falsehood.
Yep.
My truth is a bunch of crap because either it's true or it's not.
Yeah,
it
I
can
agree.
be my experience.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
So, and there is something called moral, there's morally wrong and morally right.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what your opinion is because it's something outside ourselves. Because, for example, if you don't have a God, and then it doesn't matter what kind of God, like let's say God, it's the ultimate good.
Yeah, and I think that people who don't believe in God are still guided by a certain morality. Morality is fairly universal.
But
of course,
if you go to philosophical, you cannot come to a morality without an objective morality without something outside yourself.
Exactly, and that's a debate I would love to have with an atheist or an agnostic.
So there has to be something outside ourselves.
Yes.
Right?
Agreed.
For it to be objective morality.
Agreed.
So this is kind of the foundations before we even start talking.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are disagreeing with my foundation.
Sure.
They mean that there's no such thing as moral truth. There's no such thing as truth. Yeah. There's no such thing as God.
Those are the things for a philosophy student to prove their thesis. But I think in general there is a moral ground zero for just about everybody walking the earth.
So then we have that foundation. So I have a biblical worldview.
Okay.
I have a biblical worldview that says that God is yesterday, today, and forever the same. So God didn't stop working in the world like 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, whatever. He's still working today. So what we read about in the Bible, for example, still can apply today, and what we see what he did in the Old Testament or in the New Testament, he still can do today. It doesn't mean that he does that today, but he still can do it today.
Right.
And then you come down to, for example, politics. Does God have anything to do with politics? Well, for me, it's like one of the things that the weaknesses of my movement, which is more Pentecostal charismatic, is that we had this worldview that, well, Jesus is going to come back, everything is going to hell, the Antichrist is coming to take over, so it doesn't matter what you do because Jesus will come back tomorrow no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So you don't engage in society at all. All it's about is to get people saved and get them to heaven. But my view now is that Jesus had a lot more focus on bringing heaven to earth than bringing people to heaven, like the Lord's Prayer. Let your kingdom come, let your will be done here on earth as it is in heaven. Mm-hmm. And the Great Commission, go out into all the world and make disciples of all nations.
And to do that, you have to be a representative of all things Christ and biblical. Correct.
Well, yes, but no one lives up to that.
Of course not.
So there's
only one.
There's certain things that
there's only one. Yeah.
Yes, there's certain things. So we're all fallen people, and that's also one thing that, for example, like one of the great.
But how far has Trump fallen?
No,
I mean,
but listen. For example, like Paul, which is one of the biggest heroes in the Bible.
Yeah.
Like he was a persecutor of the church. He killed Christians. He was a really bad dude.
Yeah.
Right? And he was changed and he became the biggest hero of the New Testament.
So are we waiting for Trump to change to have a Paul?
Okay, let me just finish everything here now before we come into Trump, right? Okay. So let me take my worldview so that you can understand why I come to a conclusion that I think.
And I want to understand that. I do. That's real quick. That's one of the things in our last conversation that I don't think we really got to bring up. I want to understand your Trump support. Yeah. Well, your worldview, but I think I understand that, but I want to understand how that matches with your support of MAGA and Donald Trump. That's what I want to know.
And then you have, for example, David the King David in the Bible. Yeah. He was like Jesus himself says that he's going to come back and sit on David's throne. And David was a man after God's own heart, it says in the New Testament. So David was a real hero, right? But he did a lot of crazy stuff. For example,
he sure did.
I'll take everyone knows about Bathsheba, but I'll take a little less known example. This is a man after God's own heart.
Yeah.
He comes to Saul, and he has just killed Goliath and everything like that. And he comes to Saul, the king at that time. And Saul wants to give him his daughter for his wife.
Yeah.
And then David is like, wow, that's awesome. What do I have to do to get your daughter as a wife? Well, I want 100 foreskins of Philistines. And for those who don't know, it's the tip of the penis. The foreskin there. And
I think people know what a foreskin is, but thanks for the explanation.
But then imagine how you get...
And he puts a visual on it. It's
and imagine how you get that.
Yeah, think about it.
Okay.
Ouch.
So you have to kill someone. You have to take down their pants. Imagine back 4,000 years ago, the smell, everything like that.
Not the best hygiene, I would imagine.
The hygiene. So he goes out. And he doesn't get 100 foreskins. He gets 200 foreskins. And he brings it in a bag. And he says, hi, king, give me your daughter. That's a man after God's own heart. How the heck? And then you have the other story, Bathsheba. Like David is sitting on his palace. And he looks around, and it's late at night, and he sits and he sees this beautiful woman. And he says to himself, oh, I want that. And he sends a servant to get her. She comes in, and he sleeps with her, makes her pregnant. He puts her back, doesn't want to have any more to do with her. But then she sends him a message, I've gotten pregnant. And he's like, shoot. I have to cover this up. Like, she's another man's wife.
Yeah.
So she is married to a guy called Uriah, which was one of David's mighty men, one of his most faithful servants. So David sends, and he's out into war, and he sends a letter to the general in war, and bring me Uriah, come here. So he comes here, and what he hopes for is that Uriah will come home and have sex with his wife, and he thinks that he made her pregnant. So, okay, no fault. Like, she got a kid, but no one knows it's me, right?
Right.
But Uriah is so faithful to both his fellow soldiers and to David that, no, he says, do you know what? My fellow soldiers are still out on the field and they're sleeping under the sky. How could I be home and go home and sleep with my wife? So he doesn't do that.
Right.
So now David is in trouble. So he tries a few more times to get him drunk and stuff like that, tries to get him to go home and have sex with his wife, but he doesn't do that. So then David writes a letter to his general that he sends with Uriah, and he says in the letter, I want you, general, to put Uriah in the front of the battle, and when the battle is really hard, I want you to draw all the other men back.
That's some cold-blooded stuff.
So that he can be killed. Okay? So then he does that. He sends that letter with Uriah. He goes out into battle, and he gets killed as David wanted.
David, this man of God.
Yes. Do you know anyone that has been that deceitful and that horrible? That has done that to one of your best friends?
Saddam Hussein comes to mind, but in general, no, people don't do that.
So my point is then, if that is a man after God's own heart, like you had Dennis Prager and Alan Dershowitz, they're both Jews, and they had a discussion about the Bible.
Yeah.
And Dennis Prager said, Alan Dershowitz said, when I read the Bible and I don't understand it, I think the Bible is wrong. Dennis Prager said, when I read the Bible and I don't understand it, I think I'm wrong. I just haven't seen it yet. That is my position.
I would lean more towards that position as well. If there's something in the Bible that I don't understand, I accept the challenge to read further and learn.
So then we have this.
I see what you're saying.
But then we have this foundation. And then I go further because we haven't come to Donald Trump yet. What is the most important thing? For example, like Samson. He was a hero in the Bible, and they even talk about him in New Testament in Hebrews 11.
Yes.
But he was a very weak character. He was not a righteous man.
No.
But he did some amazing things for his country, and he saved them out from the Philistines, right? Under oppression. Right? I haven't come to Donald Trump yet.
I wish you would, because I think I know where you're going, but let's get to it.
The thing is that sometimes what you do, it justifies the weakness of your character in a way. For example, I could never support a candidate that is for abortion. Because abortion, in my worldview, for example, and I don't understand any Christians that can support abortion. Abortion is the reason why, for example, the Jews were killed is because people didn't view them as fully human. That they were subhuman.
What is Trump's view on abortion?
Continue. Then, for example, like on the reason why Africans were put in slavery was because some people viewed Africans as less than human.
Yeah.
The reason why abortion is allowed is because you're viewing as a person living inside of you as less than human. For example, if we agree, and most people agree, that humans have intrinsic value, what makes it hard for them is that when it's inside the stomach, it's like, well, it's not a human being. Well, when does life begin? For example, like even in our laws, like if you kill a pregnant woman with a car, it's a double homicide. But if you abort the kid, it's not a homicide. So
do you believe in zero abortion, period?
Yes.
What about the health of the mother?
Well, there's one.
What about incest?
No.
Sexual assault.
Okay, but listen here. I'll explain that to you, because if my point here is that if a life is intrinsically valued, and you agree on that, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Then the next question is, when does life begin?
That's a big question, and that is the source of a lot of disagreement.
Okay, but then, for example, like if I drive down the road and I see something laying on the road, I don't know if it's a human.
Yeah.
It could be something else. What's my responsible action?
To not hit it.
Exactly, because it could be a human.
Yeah, but there comes a point where you see that it's not a human, that it's just a rat running across the road.
Yes. So when do you see that? Because, for example, with our technology, we see that a person or our fetus can start feeling pain like it's like 12
absolutely.
weeks old or something like
Absolutely.
that, 10 weeks old or something like
But
that.
Can we address before we get to Donald Trump, can we address when it comes to abortion, what about cases of incest with an underage child?
Okay. Then
a father and a 12-year-old girl.
That is horrible. But
so what do we do with that?
But listen,
she's pregnant now.
But this is a common thing. That has nothing to do with it. If this is a life,
so she should carry that baby to term.
Listen. If this is a life,
are you saying that she should carry that baby to term?
Listen,
I'm listening.
If this is a life,
yeah.
Is there any reason to kill? Is that innocent? That life there?
So when that child then is born, and that, let's say she's now 13 when the baby is born, and she needs help from the government, from the state, should she be denied that help? As many Republicans say.
Denied help in what way?
Financial.
Okay, but listen. Now because
to be pro-life doesn't end at birth.
I totally agree. I totally agree that pro-life doesn't end at birth.
So that 13-year-old girl should have government support then to make sure that everything is fine with her and her wonderful baby.
But then you're going into a totally different aspects, because is it the government that should have the responsibility?
Who should have the responsibility?
Well, then it's like, that's where I touched on last time.
Yeah, I want to get a little deeper. Who has the responsibility?
Jesus is like in the Bible.
You talked about that.
It's never the poor's right to have the rich to take responsibility for them.
Who supports that 13-year-old girl who has a baby now?
Okay.
Who should support her?
Life isn't fair. We agree on that. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So who should support her?
Yeah.
Everyone in the community would be great if they could support her. So, but you're let's not go
in
further.
A great world. Yeah,
yes,
the community would band together and support her, but they don't. So how do we deal with that today?
This is a totally different subject. My point here is that if this is a life, if the
it would have been nice to get an answer to that though.
But that is like 2-hour conversation.
Not really.
Yes, it is.
Well, of course it could be. I love those long discussions. But this is a subtopic of something that came up during a fluid conversation.
But this is not like it's going to be a huge, because it involves so much. But if this is a life,
we'll save that for the next time. Then
if this is a life, there's that life is innocent. That life has intrinsic value, no matter how it came to be.
Couldn't agree more. I'm asking, what do we do?
But that is the next. That's next question. Let's take that the next
some other time. That's fine.
So for example, for me, I don't believe that any Christians could be a Christian and understand this and be pro-abortion. So that's one thing.
Is pro-choice the same thing as pro-abortion?
Yes.
So then why do you support Donald Trump? Because he's pro-choice.
Well, this is where politics comes in, and for example, because if you look at his track,
but if you look at track record,
if you look at the track record, no one has in politics, because he went into, for example, election with saying that I want to get conservative judges that reads the Constitution as it was written, and I want to have them pro-life. And he got that, and he abolished Roe v. Wade, and now it's back to the states.
Yep.
So, no politician ever has been in the fruit of their policies has never been so much pro-life as Donald Trump.
I have to agree with that.
Yes. So
if you're anti-abortion, you should love what Trump got done there.
yes.
But
so
are you a single issue supporter
I'm not single issue,
Trump?
but that is the most important issue because if
Understood.
If you
A lot
don't
of people
have
think that way, and there's nothing wrong with that.
because if you don't have the intrinsic value of life, then everything is up for grabs.
Yeah, but don't you agree that with if abortion were impossible because of the strength of the illegality of it, or the strength of the laws against abortion were such that no woman in America could ever have an abortion, are you and MAGA supporters, right-wing Republican government people, prepared for the aftermath of that? The need for social support will grow tremendously. And what will you guys do with that? Because you've already stated you're very much against that. So what do you do?
Let's do that for the next time. That would be a great discussion because let's
save that for the next
subject.
one then. We now leapfrog to how does your worldview, your Christianity, how does that match with Donald Trump being the person he is?
I'm going to do
yes, he did this thing for
and that's a huge thing.
Great.
Yeah.
But what about everything
I'm going
else?
to do
Where is the Christ in him?
Another huge thing, and then I'm going to go to him as a person. Another huge policy.
In the interest of time, make this just a couple minutes.
Bush, Clinton, Obama said that they would move the Israeli embassy to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
It was, I think it came under Bill Clinton the first time they said that.
I think so.
No one did it.
No one did it. Trump did.
No one had the balls to
Trump
do it.
supported
He did
that.
it.
Israel did it, but Trump supported it. Yes.
And another thing is that when it comes to what we can, and I've talked to a few people, but what we can at least see is that under the 4 years of Trump, there was no new wars. There was relatively peace. He had started the Abrahamic Accord, bringing peace to the world, like in the Arabic world, which was huge. So you can disagree, but like at least, like for example, Jordan Peterson, he said, and he's not a Trump like guru or like anything like that, but he said like,
despite how the media paints him, I think the media paints him as a pure right-winger, and he's not. He's actually quite nuanced. And I'm not saying I agree with most of what he says, because I don't. But he's far from a straightforward right-winger.
There's only one thing I've heard Jordan Peterson not disagree with, and that's how the age of the earth. But other than that, like I can see nuance that maybe I don't agree, but I see his point. Yeah. And he has he knows. I
understand. Yeah.
He has good reasons for believing what he does. That's my point.
So you've named a few political things that Trump has done that you agree with, but again, how do you get his way of life, his way of leadership? How do you get that to match up, for example, with your worldview when it comes to Christianity?
For example, one thing that we can, at least from my point of view, is that when Trump went to election with, he had a few promises, and he has kept, or at least showed that he tried to keep all the promises he got. And that is very few other politicians has done that. And that's one of the fight against him, because no one believed that he would actually want to build a wall. No one believed that he would actually...
He didn't build a wall.
Okay. This is...
What they say, less than 20 miles of the wall was built?
Okay,
that's true. It's true, my friend.
No, it's not true.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
Don't throw those things in. Seriously.
Well, I have to.
No, because
if I see something that's not factually
if you
correct.
Look in... This is what irritates me.
Was a wall built, and did Mexico pay for it? Because that's what he promised.
Okay.
No.
Okay. A lot of wall was built, and Mexico's put their own guards to watch over the wall, and they paid for the wall. No, they paid for the guards.
There has always been varying degrees of a barrier between Mexico and the United States. Trump did not build a Texas Gulf Coast all the way over
again,
to
now
California,
you are doing
as he
the thing
said.
You're throwing stuff in that is.
I'm just talking facts.
No. It's
Trump
different
said,
opinions. For example, Trump said, for example, there was a wall. Like, for example, Trump said this, answered this criticism and said, well, he only built this much wall. Well, yeah, there was a wall there, and they were like, you could walk through them, but it was a wall there. Well, he built a new wall that you can't walk through them anymore.
Maybe 20 miles.
Okay.
It's the truth. You want me to pull it up now? I'll do it. I'll pull it up right now.
Pull
Google.
it now. But then if I also heard that he has it's hundreds of miles. So which is it?
Let's say this. What Trump said was that he would erect an impenetrable wall, in his own words, from California all the way to the Texas Gulf Coast. Did he do that? No.
He was stopped.
No.
No. Listen.
Did Mexico pay for it?
Listen.
No.
But
he bamboozled. In fact, Steve Bannon and his cohorts actually got indicted and convicted
we totally disagree
for
on this.
Cheating,
so
for lying about funds that were raised for that
away
wall.
From this. I totally disagree with this.
It doesn't matter whether you agree. That's a fact.
No,
Steve
this
Bannon
is not fact.
Steve Bannon and his cohorts did not get in trouble. Steve Bannon and his cohorts, you're saying, did not get in trouble.
10%, 90%, 10%, 90%.
But it's 100% true that Steve Bannon, in cahoots with Trump, lied to people to raise money for this wall and then just put it in his pocket.
We are trying to talk.
That happened.
We're trying to talk about how did I come to the conclusion that I support Trump. Okay,
well, that started about 30 minutes ago. Tell me, how did you come to the conclusion that you support Trump? In 2 words or less.
I see him as one of the guys that have kept most of the words that of any politician I've seen.
Okay,
or at least tried to keep the word.
Okay,
and he is. What I see him as, he's kind of take the analogy of like the Hunger Games again. He's one of the districts leader trying to say the real enemy is not Republicans, Democrats, but it's the system in a way. So that. But then, for me personally, in 2007, do I believe in prophets, for example? Yes, I do believe. Do I believe that God speaks today? Yes, I do believe that. Right? And I believe that, like as in the Old Testament, for example, if you read the Old Testament, most of the prophetic words were given to kings or nations.
Does Trump fall under some sort of biblical prophecy?
Listen.
I'm just asking.
Listen. So most people of the Old Testament prophet believes goes for kings or countries, most of the prophecies. So then you have a theological difference. And this is where I come on one side and you have people on the other side. And you can argue for both. I believe that the prophetic gift is still for today.
Okay. But does Trump fall within some sort of biblical prophecy?
I haven't come there yet. In 2017, in 2007, there was a guy called Comin. He died in 2014.
Okay.
And he started to prophesy in 2007 that God would raise up a trump and Trump would become a trumpet, that there would be a praying president in the White House. When he goes in, he would not be a praying president, but when during his period, he would be a praying president.
You think he's a praying president?
Listen, then he would have hot blood. And
he did get infected by
no, but hot blood, like that's something that is like right.
Okay,
right. And there was so many prophecies about Trump from 2007. In 2015, there was a guy that I met that he's a great guy. He's called Lance Wallnau. He prophesied that Trump would be the 45th president, and he would be Isaiah 45 president. And
tell me the name of that first prophet again.
Kim Clement, and
Kim,
if you
with a C, Clement.
Yeah, he died in 2014. So he has so many prophecies, and you can search him up on YouTube and find a lot. Trump prophecies. Kim Clement, for example, he has some amazing, and it's so eerie. And a lot of the things that you see today, he prophesied, for example, Iran, Russia,
but again,
Hamas.
when it comes to Trump, I don't see the godliness. I don't see him as being touched by the hand of God. You say he's a praying president? When? Where?
Okay, do you, for example, like when it says like you should pray, don't be like the hypocrites that pray out in about so that everyone can see them pray, for example.
So you think Trump prays in private?
Oh, totally.
Where do you
I don't see that. You don't see that.
So why do you think he does then?
Well, because this is maybe one of the biggest ones.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you trust in today? Like, what do we trust? For me, I made a conscious decision. I trust the Bible, even if I don't understand everything. I don't always trust my interpretation of the Bible, but you have to have something that this is a firm foundation, no matter what this. So okay, I trust the Bible.
Religious belief is in the and believe in the Bible is very much a faith thing, and faith is not tangible.
No, but it's not.
But it's that firm foundation. But you believe in this. You don't exactly know why. You don't understand everything, but you believe in it.
But I have good also reason for believe it. Like I've studied the Bible for 30 years. Mm-hmm. I find both psychology, like listen to Jordan Peterson on his biblical teaching. He comes to it from a psychological point of view, and you see that all the stories, they speak truth also psychologically.
Yes.
I believe that it's scientifically true.
Yeah.
I believe that it's true in every aspect whatsoever. So that's the Bible.
Yeah.
And then I have another one. I have chosen to believe in the prophetic gifting more than I choose to believe in news, for example. And the difference here is important. There's a story from the Old Testament when Moses sends out in the 12 spies into the promised land. He sends out 12 spies, 10 comes back and they say, well, the promised land is what God told us. It is flowing with milk and honey. It's amazing and stuff like that. But you have these great giants that we cannot overcome. They are going to win over us. We're like locusts compared to them, right? What they said was not factually wrong, right? And then you have the two prophets, Caleb and Joshua. They go into the promised land and they come back with a lot of the same report. Yes, the land is flowing with milk and honey. Yes, it's amazing. Yes, there are giants there, but they are going to be bread for us because God is with us. We can fight them and we can overcome them.
Yeah.
They were also factually wrong. But they came with a good report that came from God's point of view. They also came with a factual report, but they created something that made the Israelites walk in the desert for 40 years without achieving the promise. So, but let me say again. So who should we believe? Should I believe in the media that I believe a lot of times speak total lies? Sometimes speak truth, factual truth like the 10 spies, but they don't come with any hope.
Sure. I see that.
So who do I believe? So I've chosen to believe, for example, I cannot see a person's heart. I don't see your heart. I can pray for you. I can get close to you and I can know you more.
But I think we see one another's heart by our actions.
Well, not necessarily.
Our actions are
not necessarily because, for example, like with the actions of Trump, I don't live with him. I see some snippets of his actions. So, for example, and the snippets that I see, it's controlled by who shows me the snippets. So, for example, the snippets that I see is the 10% I was talking about in the beginning. Mm-hmm. It can be a total different thing as another 10% that they show me. And it can be totally different the 100%.
Let me sum this up. So far, what I think you're telling me is that you base Trump's goodness, Trump's manifestation of being touched by God and Christianity is based upon a prophecy by Kim Clement.
Many. There's hundreds of
prophecies by Kim Clement. But still...
and a biblical worldview, like for example, when I see, for example, let me see, like.
Well, that's what I was going to get to, is because I don't see that he has a biblical view in the slightest bit. I see that he has changed his views on abortion. Now, that could be because he truly came to some sort of decision within himself, or it could be for political benefit. It could be.
But you
either
don't know
way,
the heart. I don't
exactly.
know the heart.
We don't. Hold on a second. So he did change his views on abortion, but what else has he done to show himself worthy, I don't know, justified in having this overwhelming, but I believe it's a falling support from the Christian community in the United States? Okay. What else does he do?
Well,
he changed his views on abortion, but what else does he do?
For example, like Jesus, he was accused by the Pharisees, and I'm not equating Trump with Jesus at all, but their view, the Pharisees' point of view.
Jesus was a criminal to the Pharisees. Yes. Jesus was a heretic to the Pharisees.
So again,
but
it makes.
How does that apply to Trump, though?
No, but well, okay. Listen to. This is why I trust. For example, God says, or the Bible says, like we should walk by faith, not by sight. What we see sometimes can say us one thing, and what God shows us.
And we have to interpret things as we see them.
But let me see one of the prophecies given by Trump, and I'll give you.
But I just said it earlier also that God doesn't want anybody to be a blind fool.
No, I totally agree.
What do you have there?
But this is Isaiah 45. This is many prophetic people gave this, especially Lance Wallnau gave this in 2015. This was a word for Trump. And I'm going to read a little bit, and then I'm going to explain the historical context of who the original Cyrus was. This is what the Lord says to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have taken hold of, to subdue nations before him, and to strip kings of their armor, to open doors before him, so that gates will not be shut. This was given 150 years before Cyrus was born.
Okay.
So Isaiah here, he gives this 150 years before Cyrus was born. Cyrus was born in the time of Nehemiah and Ezra. Mm-hmm. I will go before you and will level the mountains. I will break down gates of bronze and cut through bars of iron. I will give you hidden treasures, riches stored in secret places, so that you may know that I am the Lord, the God of Israel, who summons you by name. For the sake of Jacob, my servant, of Israel, my chosen, I summon you by name and bestowed on you a title of honor, though you do not acknowledge me. So this guy, he was not a Jew. Cyrus was not a Jew. He came from the Median Persian. Yep. So he took down Nebuchadnezzar or the Babylonians. So it was after that. So he was not a Jew. He did not know God. Yep. But God chose him.
Do you think Trump is chosen by God?
Yes.
Good.
Though
gracious.
You do not acknowledge me. I am the Lord, and there is no other. Apart from me, there is no God. I will strengthen you, though you have not acknowledged me, so that from the rising of the sun to the place of its setting, people may know there is no one besides me. And then it goes on, and you can read more on. The thing is that there's a lot of the sameness of Cyrus and Trump. For example, there's archaeology found about the Cyrus scroll, and it says that he brought freedom to his people. He built walls.
Is Trump bringing freedom to the American people?
I think his policies was way, but this is where we disagree. But remember, like this, you will never be able to. Probably you will never be able to make me change my opinion, and this is because I've chosen to make the Bible.
I would never want to make you change your opinion.
I've chosen, for example, the Bible is the foundation. I've chosen to believe more in the prophetic, and then it's not. I'm not.
What evidence is there that Trump has been chosen by God? You say he's been chosen by God. What evidence?
Well, for me, it's like this guy Cyrus was prophesied 150 years before he was born.
Yeah, but Cyrus is not Donald Trump.
Well,
the circumstances are not the same either.
Listen, that Benjamin Netanyahu said about Trump that he was today's Cyrus.
I don't think I heard him say that.
No,
but
he said that
so
he
said that.
Yes,
but
there's a coin made of Trump and Cyrus, a coin for the temple in or the temple treasury in Jerusalem. Even though they don't have a temple, they have a coin. There's a coin, a silver coin with the face of Trump and Cyrus. There's so many things. So for me, it's like, and this is like where it's hard to talk to someone that believes that I'm totally screwed up in my head now. Because they don't believe there's a God.
I wouldn't say that but I wouldn't say that you're screwed up in your head, because I believe there's a God.
Yeah.
You know, you and I are both Christians.
But for example, like for example, like to believe that God works in today's world as he did in the old world, for a lot of people would be hard to believe.
Of course, but what's hard for me to believe is that Trump has anything to do with the hand of God and Christianity.
But what is your view of, like, what is, for example, and I get this.
Does Joe Biden do anything, what does Joe Biden do that is not God-like or Christ-like, or that goes against the teachings of
for
the
example,
Bible? What does Joe Biden do? Name one thing.
Well, I can make
name
a
one
lot.
thing. Name one.
I'll do
Can
one.
you name a lot with Trump, though, that he does not do, that is according to the will of God and the Bible?
Depends what you mean with that.
Oh, now it depends on what I mean.
No,
but with Joe Biden, you can rattle off several.
I can
tell me one about Joe Biden.
Yeah, Joe Biden. For
what does he do that's not?
Do you know
Christ-like?
that in the Old Testament there were worship of idols, and that's one of the things that God said, like, he detested that.
Yeah.
And there was a god called Moloch, and you sacrifice to him your children.
Yeah, but Joe Biden doesn't do that. What does Joe Biden do that is against the teachings of God?
Moloch, you sacrifice your children.
Mm-hmm.
You also made abortions to Moloch. And even like in the Old Testament, it says, like, even if you don't necessarily know that you're worshiping an idol, even though you don't have but your actions do it, you're opening. I believe that, for example, for U.S., since 1971 and 73, when Roe versus Wade came in, you guys have been under a curse. Because you open the gate to blood sacrifice, like in the Old Testament, and even like if you talk to people that are Satanist or into the occult, the blood has a huge power. Even the Old Testament, it says like there was a king that was against Israel, that sacrificed his sons against Israel, and he got power to overcome them. So there's power in the blood. So you by allowing, and this is also on the Republican side, so I'm not giving them a pass here, but by you allowing a country, and there's a difference between a person doing it and a country as a whole kind of standing behind it. Like when a
country as a whole never stood behind it, because there's always been dissent. There's always been people who don't.
The laws in the country stood behind it.
Understood, yeah.
So when the laws in the country stood behind it, you're opening up the gates for
What about
curses.
here in Norway?
Yeah, we're under the same curse.
Okay.
So
But again, what does Joe Biden do that goes against the teachings of God?
Well, for example, that.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, he's never had an abortion.
Totally pro-abortion.
Okay, so the fact that he is pro-abortion is against the teachings.
That's one of the things, yeah.
Okay. Name one thing that Trump does that is against the teachings of God, if you would, please.
Against the teachings of God?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it depends. Do you say it now or do you say it in a hindsight? Because, for example, if you're going to take my life, for example, like if you take Paul, the apostle, if you took him before...
that dude was, very much against it. He actually killed Christians. But I'm asking you to name one thing that Donald Trump does that goes against the teachings.
Right now?
Sure.
Not history-wise, but right now?
Either or.
Well, I find he has a hard time at acknowledging his fault.
A hard time? How about he can't do it? But okay, so vanity. Vanity vanity goes against the teachings of the Bible. It does, and Trump is guilty of that.
But the thing is here.
Well, the thing is, my point is that both of them and every one of us do things and say things.
None of us are perfect.
Right.
So my point.
Why is Trump exalted as being a man of God when he shows very little of that in his actions and words. But Joe Biden is demonized in a religious sense when he, of course, he does things that go against the teachings of the Bible, but he also, in his outer visage, by his actions shows himself. Like, hold on a second. Hold on, please. Stop. His kids are another thing. They're adults. But I'm telling you that Joe Biden actually voices and shows that he is, although very faulted, and he'll say this himself, he is trying to walk a path that would be looked upon with approval by God. So why is he demonized, even though he's trying? Obviously, whether he reaches it or not is up to debate. None of us reach it. None of us are perfect in a godly sense. But Trump does nothing to show his efforts at godliness. And yet he is exalted as a man of God. I'm just trying. Look, as I asked you about an hour ago, I'm just trying to get it to match. Yeah. Because I'm not saying Joe Biden is more of a Christian than Trump is. I'm not saying that.
You're kind of giving the foundation for my answer in your question.
I'm just asking a question and I'm looking for an answer.
You're not looking for an answer.
Of course I am. I'm looking for you to answer to me, how does Trump walk in the path of light and goodness and all things holy? He does not. I don't see it. I'm not saying he doesn't do it, but I don't see it. So I'm just wondering where your faith in Donald Trump's godliness comes from.
But one thing that
you mentioned this. You mentioned a prophet. Okay.
Yeah. And that weighs heavy on me.
Okay.
But another thing is that, for example, like I wrote an article into Dagen, and I got a lot of blast for that. It's Dagen is a Christian newspaper in Norway, and I compared Trump to Jesus, but in just one aspect.
Okay.
And it was
they both wore sandals?
No. The thing
Trump
is
doesn't wear sandals.
As Trump, Jesus didn't always he wasn't always kind to people. Like, for example, and I think, for example, like a lot of the Western view of Jesus in Christianity is that he's like this metrosexual guy that never does anything to hurt anyone.
A millennial.
Yeah. but that is the view that many people have of Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Like a kind guy.
Yeah.
But when then I took up some of the things that he said. Jesus said to the Pharisees, you whitewash tombs. He said to the king, Pharaoh, you fox. Go and tell that fox. He said in his preaching on Sermon on the Mount, many will come to me on that day and say, Lord, Lord, haven't we cast out demons in your name? Haven't we prophesied in your name? Haven't we done all these great things in your name? And he will say, get away from me. I never knew you. So he used
violence against the tax collectors in the temple.
Yeah. Or, for example, he says, it's better for a man to get a stone thrown around his neck and throw into the sea than for anyone to lead my small ones into perdition or like into temptation or something like that.
It's a pretty violent image, yeah.
Very violent.
Yeah.
So Jesus was that as well.
Yeah.
He's the Lion of Judah and he's the Lamb of God. He's both.
Yeah.
And if you can't see both, if you only see the Lamb, you're
missing part of the picture.
Yes. Yeah. So if you
so are you saying that because Trump acts like an asshole in public, that makes him more like Jesus? The lion part? Is that what you're saying? I'm just again, like man, my brother. I'm still trying to get it to match.
For example, like let's say that this has a lot to do with the expectations. If you, for example, believe that the election was stolen in 2020, his reaction is justified and maybe...
but Trump doesn't believe that it was stolen. He doesn't believe that it was stolen.
Okay,
There's so much proof of that.
Put that away. Listen.
I'm listening, but I can't put that away.
Yes, you have to put that away.
Can't do it.
Okay, try.
Can't.
If the election in 2020 was stolen... his reaction to that and his supporters of that was definitely not too much. It was too
Do you
little.
think that he believes that it was stolen?
I 100% believes that.
Wow.
Okay. So okay, but if it wasn't stolen, we're a bunch of delusional. Yes. So if it wasn't stolen, but it all comes down to what was the truth, right? So that's where I told you, like the first conversation, we don't agree on the facts, because if the for example the election was stolen, what Trump did was totally justified, and he should have been even harsher. If he wasn't stolen, he should have resigned a long time ago and given it away.
Let's go back to the 2000 election with Bush and Gore. There was a dispute about who won.
Yep.
Al Gore took it to court. It went through that process all the way up to the Supreme Court. A decision was made, and Al Gore didn't agree with it, but he gracefully bowed out and wished George Bush good luck for the 2000 election. Why couldn't Donald Trump do that? Again, Al Gore believes that election was stolen.
Yes, this again goes down
Why
to
couldn't
the
Trump
world,
do that?
the worldview you have. If you believe that a lot of the institutions and a lot of America has been taken over by unelected people, like for
lobbyists.
Mm-hmm. If you believe that they've been taken over by unelected people, and you like,
lobbyists
for example,
run things in America, and they have for decades.
What, for example, Trump went into election for? Drain the swamp.
He may have drained the swamp, but he just built his own cesspool and filled it. He sure did.
Okay, you believe that. But for example...
Well, it's factual as far as all of the indictments and criminal wrongdoing by his people.
But for example, like if you...
I didn't just make that up.
No, but that is again, what if this is just a political persecution of someone that can take the elites down? Because do you see, like, we can look at the same thing. Okay, right? Our different worldviews give us a totally different.
Let's look at this. Why do you think that Trump took 60 cases to different courts? An overwhelming majority of these courts were run by Republican chosen judges. Some of them he chose himself.
Election?
After the election, he took 60. I think it was
58 was not tried. They didn't come up. They had.
Do you know why they weren't tried? Why weren't they tried?
They said lack of standing.
And what does that mean? Do you know?
That you don't have the right to you were not the one that, like, for example, I can't, if you're stolen from, I can't go to the court and hear my case on your behalf, because you have to go to the court and ask. It's not me. So lack of standing. So
in other words,
it was never.
There was no legal standing there.
No, it was never even heard.
Because there was no legal standing.
But it was never even heard.
In other words, it was bullshit.
But
don't bother us with bullshit. Come with facts.
But it was never heard.
Do you know that on those 58 that were not heard, they told him to come with proof, and he didn't, and thereby there was no legal standing.
For me, like, for example, like, look at the video, like 2,000 Mules.
I have to see that. I want to see that.
Yeah. If that is not proof for me, because, like, for example,
I can't speak to that. I haven't seen it, but I want to, though. I'm going to watch it.
You had, like,
I wrote it down here. I'm going to come back to
the camera that was in one of the election offices.
Yeah.
They at the late of the night, they opened the like, they had a table, and they opened the curtain on the table, and they
in Georgia, right?
I don't know where it was. They took out boxes, and they just put them in, and they put them in, and they put them in, and they took. You saw that they took the same ballot over and over again. I just want to
tell you, there was. But like, hold on a second. I'm going to speak to that. I can't remember the lady's name, but it was a black lady in Georgia and her daughter, supposedly filmed. Well, they were filmed, and the interpretation, whether they meant this. Legitimately, or whether they meant to use this to persecute these women and to try to prove this false narrative that the election was stolen in Georgia. I have seen the video, and what they were actually hold on a second, and what they were actually doing is not what Trump and his supporters said they were doing. It was proven in court. And this lady and her daughter had to go. Well, what they had to do was go into hiding.
Okay, what
this film, 2,000 Mules by Dinesh D'Souza, says that these women were actually stuffing the ballots.
This was from an utter.
But is that Georgia's thing with these two, this black woman and her daughter? Is that not in that film as well? I think it is.
I don't know.
I think it is. And it was proven in court that was a false accusation. Do you know that accusation brought death threats?
What were they doing?
Here's the rabidity.
What were they doing?
Here is the rabidity.
But what were they doing?
There were votes that had, ballots that had come in after Election Day, which is normal. My ballot, when I vote from here, it's going to come in at a different time than on Election Day. So they were merely bringing in ballots that had come in. And what these people, Trump and his rabid MAGA minions, many of them are so, not all, you're not rabid, but these MAGA minions believed Trump's false narrative, and it put these women's lives in danger. Okay. Is that the workings of God? That's what I'm talking about with Donald Trump, that he does things like that willfully and purposefully, and I don't see an ounce of, if Jesus were to sneeze in his face, I don't see how any godliness would stick to that man.
No, but listen,
please tell me how Donald Trump is godly when he does things like that. By putting a narrative out there that these innocent women who are doing their civic duty by assisting in the voting process, doing their jobs, Trump gets this piece of film and says that they're stuffing ballot boxes.
Well, it sure looked like it.
It doesn't matter what it looked like. That's not what it was. And he knew that. And he tells his people this, and it put these women's lives in danger. And this has been proven through the court of law. So it's not my opinion.
But that is where
it's not my opinion.
One thing.
So tell me, how do you justify Donald Trump doing things like that? Because he and his minions put that narrative out there.
Okay, can I say something?
Amen. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm letting you talk. I got to talk a little bit too.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody, if you're out there and watching, because I just want to say this as a little aside. I'm going to speak directly to you out there watching or listening. If somebody has the time, if you're really, really bored, and if you can make it through an entire episode of Coming Home with John Allen, tally up the number of minutes that I have spoken today and the number of minutes that this wonderful brother has spoken. I will admit I cut you off a lot, but to me that's part of a dynamic conversation. But I don't want to be accused yet again of not giving you the platform.
You be very generous.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. But I am truly interested in how you feel. And now let me turn it over to you. Please try again to explain to me the godliness of that action.
Yeah. I hope to be more like Jesus. And one of the things that
those of us who
did
believe
is, like, often when he was asked a question, he came with a story.
Yes, a parable.
So I'll come with a parable or a true story, but it's like, I think it can
We have 9 minutes and then we have to stop.
Winston Churchill, he was a warmonger, looked upon as a warmonger in the 30s.
Yep.
He was very unpopular. But what he was speaking was truth. It showed in hindsight.
Yes.
But for example, like he said some pretty nasty things about the government in the UK and also Hitler and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If what he was saying was not true, it would have been just nasty.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? But it showed in hindsight that he was speaking the truth.
Yeah.
And he was a wartime president, and he freed the Western world from Hitler. Or without him, I think that we could have been speaking German today. Right?
Yeah.
So, and after the war, he was voted out because they didn't want him because he was too strong. He was not very cuddly. And I believe that he was definitely a man chosen by God for that time. But he was a drinker. He drank a lot of whiskey or cognac and stuff like that. He was smoking a cigar and
constantly.
He was not like a church-going nice guy, right?
No.
But was he the right man for the job? Yes. And
looking back on history, he sure was.
But like, I think that a lot of times if my view of, for example, what's going on in the world, I believe that there's unelected people that is basically trying to take over the world. For example, World Health Organization is now talking about that, for example, if there comes out another pandemic, each country has to give away their sovereignty to let the World Health Organization decide what to do on a world scale.
Yep.
Isn't that giving away power to a very few people, unelected people, by the way?
Yeah, that's kind of similar to my whole philosophy about the wrongness of the lobby.
Yes. So if you have that worldview, that the world is taken over by a few unelected people, if that is a narrative, who do you think you could have a cuddly, nice guy to come up against that? Or do you have to have a bull in the china closet that is going to like Winston Churchill for our time?
There's a difference between Winston Churchill being being very abrasive in the interests of his country and Donald Trump saying things that put people's lives in danger.
Why?
Just for his own benefit. Because stop, hold on. Winston Churchill had the welfare of his country and Europe in general first and foremost in his mind. Donald Trump is selfish. Show me instances where he is not doing things just because it benefits him.
Well,
and the lady's name is Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shay Moss. They are the two whose lives they had to go into hiding because this man accused them of doing something illegal.
I still believe that.
You still believe it? Okay.
No, I still believe that for
Donald Trump does no
on the
wrong.
video,
because
like
Donald
they take
Trump,
out something and there are only two in there. I think that it's very... They have to come up with a very good excuse why they did it. So,
they explained exactly what they were doing. They had the backing of the supervisors at that polling station, and it came out in court that this was a false accusation. And we see to this day that these women's lives are in danger because there are so many rabid MAGA people who hate them, want to kill them. And they put it out there that that's what they want to do, and that is with Trump's tacit, if not evident, approval. Prove me wrong.
Listen.
You can't. That's Donald Trump. He's selfish.
No.
Prophecies or not, Donald Trump is a selfish man.
For example,
he's a hateful man.
Okay. He is one of the few presidents that's gone in and gone out less rich than when he gone in. For example,
you say that at the same time.
Listen.
He did not take his presidential salary. Very true. I'm going to talk a little bit now. Very true. But at the same time, what was he doing on the personal side? He was profiting immensely. See, here's the falseness of Donald Trump. It looks good that he's this unselfish guy who won't take his presidential salary. And yet, as we see in many of these indictments, this man was playing many, many illegal financial shenanigans behind the scene during his presidency with his private business. Falsehood. That man is a walking falsehood.
Another thing, for example, like January 6th, is that selfish or is that for the country?
Selfish.
Okay, January 6th.
Selfish.
But
Al Gore was selfless.
No,
when the court said that Al Gore was wrong and he did not win the election, he gracefully bowed out. Trump did the exact opposite.
Well, then I ask you a question.
Yeah.
If, and only if, but if the election was stolen, wouldn't you wish that someone would stand up and be willing to lose everything for that to come forth? Because if the election is stolen in the democracy, you don't have a democracy anymore. But if you're not, then I can agree with you.
If my son hadn't sneezed in my face a week ago, I wouldn't be sick right now.
No, but that is the whole thing. Like you have half the country that almost believe that this election was stolen. And no matter what you have to do...
Why do they believe that?
No matter what you have to...
Who perpetrated that narrative?
It started a long time before. For example, like a lot of Democrats
believe... it started in a large degree in 2000 with the Gore-Bush election.
And so what you have... And for example, a lot of Democrats didn't believe that Donald Trump won in 2016. It was Russia collusion. It was Russia.
Was there a national movement that led to an insurrection in 2016? That's my point. You can't both sides this. You can't.
My point is that you the number one thing that you have to do in U.S. is and this has to be bipartisan. It has to be
more of that, please.
It has to be so thoroughly that, okay, our country don't trust our elections. We have to build a trust in our elections. Yes. That has to be number one.
Agreed.
And anyone that stands against that should be thrown out.
That should be the number one political objective. But if they should be thrown out, then there'd be very few people in the Republican Party, because the Republicans play that game where they try to limit. I talked about this earlier.
Oh man, you are so. Do you know what?
Do they?
I have not thrown your side under the bus tonight. You
Please do. Please do.
Yeah, but I don't. That is not going to build up anything.
What's going to build up is
when I looked at some of the,
you have to state the facts.
No, you throw people under the bus. You said
people in the sense of the Republican Party. Yes, people in the sense of MAGA.
For example,
yes,
like when you say, like for example, like, well, if we do that, then there'll be a lot of Republicans left. Like seriously, that is so. That is divisive, and like for example,
what does divisive mean to you? Because that's just the truth. No, you're the one that said it.
I could say the same thing. Do you know what I can say? Well, why is that helping?
It helps as a counter to what you said.
No,
I'm telling you that if the number one objective,
a lot of things that you said
the number one objective, but you said the number one objective in American politics should be to clean things up and make voting truly representative of the people. Yeah. You know who's resisting that the most? By far, and you can't both sides. It is the Republican Party. If that's throwing them under the bus, then where's the keys? Let me drive that bus. Let me drive that bus.
Do you know what?
I'll drive that bus.
From my point of view, it's all Democrats.
Okay, that's just a perspective issue then.
Exactly. So you can't. So that's why I leave it out. Because from my point of view...
What do you mean leave it out? It should be part of the discussion.
No, because you have your perspective, for example, because you have been presented with the 10% there.
But what I think is that
and I presented with the 10% there. And none of us see the 100%.
I think that when I come with a point, you just don't like it. No, because you come with your points and it's like, okay, but I'm going to counter that.
No, but I don't
That's part of the discussion.
I don't say that, well, the Democrats are all a bunch of, like, horrible people.
The Republicans are not all this, that, or the other. I'm talking about the Republican leadership, and I'm talking about the MAGA movement.
But you are...
That's what I'm talking about.
For example, But again, you say that about, for example, when I say about blacks, like you say that, well, blacks are not all a monolith.
Quite true.
So I am against putting... You can say that I am against this ideology,
but then you take that ideology. I even give you that within the MAGA movement there are radicals, rabid radicals, and then there are those who are not. I gave you that, so don't forget that.
Okay,
and I'm not saying that all Republicans are this, that, or the other, but the Republican leadership certainly.
I don't think they're radicals. For example,
hold on. The Republican leadership is not radical, but they are certainly playing to that radical element within the Republican Party.
Depends what you say radical. For example, like I heard you had a discussion about our podcast with someone else, and it said and he laughed and gleed and said, "Well, we on the left haven't moved a lot more left than." Before, and then I said, "Well,
that was with Adam O'Shea."
Okay, for example,
hello, Adam.
If you look at 50 years ago, that's a generation.
Yes.
What was the social issues then that mainstream? Would they even recognize 2023?
It depends. I'm not sure. It depends.
Let's say before the sexual revolution in 1967. Sex, there came a prophecy in 1957 here in Norway. There was a girl from Valdres. She was 9 years old, and she said this. And this was in maybe it was in the 60s. I don't know, but it was before. Yeah. It was way back. And she said, there would come a time when you would have more than one channel on TV. And back then you had both NRK. There would become a time where people will be living together but not be married. That was unthinkable. There would come a time when
I think Norway is the leading nation in unmarried
there would come a time where the lewdness of or the sexuality that is only between man and woman in a bedroom is shown on a TV screen. And then the God that listened to this prophecy, that will never happen because we have laws against showing nudity on TV. Okay, that generation, that's not long ago.
They'd lose their minds if they were still alive,
how the heck can you say that the left has moved left? Like on social issues. For example, when there was no, like everyone in society thought that sex outside of marriage was abominable. It was not something that you should
I get your point. I can't argue
homosexuality. No one was okay with that.
Things have changed. Yes.
So who has changed the most?
I think the Republican Party and the Democratic Party both have changed since then because.
But who has changed the most on social issues?
Because there was a party flip.
But who has changed on most
Democrats
on social? That's a lie that you believe. But who has changed on the most? But who has changed on most? On social issues.
Who were the promoters?
On the social issues.
Oh my God.
Who has changed the most? From the 50s. Sex belonging to marriage.
That's debatable, but I don't think it's very important either.
But when you say, for example, when this
you don't believe the party flip is a true thing, though.
No, but when you say, like, for example, like the
Dixiecrats from right after the Civil War.
Thomas Sowell goes into that, so I trust in him.
Good old.
I think he has more knowledge than me and you put together. So, but
in some areas, absolutely.
But the thing is that when you look at what used to be mainstream, if I still stand for those things today, I'm looked as a radical.
Well, of course, things change. Absolutely. Social
my
mores,
grandparents,
rules.
like even those that were not Christian or not religious at all, the society stood for something that today would look upon as radical.
Sure, that's a normal development of society.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But to then say that they are radical, that is,
but degrees of
that's
radical.
Like less than a generation ago.
Degrees of radical change with the times because what was radical 50 years ago is not radical today.
That's why, for example, where I do believe that we should be a lot more in common than we actually are, is that, like, if you believe in a biblical worldview, there's a set morality throughout time.
Yeah.
So what is radical is anything that goes against that.
And I'm going to just bring it right back around because, again, I'm trying to understand your support for Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. How do you see him and his actions as biblical? I don't get it.
Classical values.
Trump?
Yeah.
Classical values.
Family. Like, and he has been married 3 times, so yes. But he's for family. Like when you look at like how he treats his kids, and he's for family, he's for life, he's for hard work, for personal responsibility, for peace through strength. Like, for example, like the most dangerous things is when you have weak men in control.
Agreed.
When you have strong men.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed.
So
I don't think Trump is strong, though.
I think he's super strong, and like he showed himself on the world scale. No one wanted to
threaten or to mess with America.
No one wanted to mess with him.
But I think that's just a talking point that the right uses because by chance, and thank God for it, there was no major war developments during his presidency.
If that had been Biden or Obama,
but how can you say that's a big if? You don't know that.
No, but if that had been
because the world, just like our system changes over time, the world political system changes.
My point was not what you thought I was going to say. If Obama hadn't gotten any new wars, you would have given the benefits to Obama. Yes, great job, Obama. You didn't get us into any new wars.
Because I don't believe that a president or even a government can just arbitrarily say, "Yep, no war." Because again, it depends on the world situation. Do you believe that there's never a time where war is called for?
Of course.
That's my point. And we never know when that time will come.
No, but
by chance, and thank God for it, there were no major wartime developments during Trump's presidency.
Don't you think that has to do a little bit with him?
Probably a little bit. But again, as I say, a president cannot
this is so
decide.
funny.
A president cannot decide whether there will be war or not. To a certain degree, yes. Public policy, international policy, and things like that
Not
do
just
play a
policy,
part.
but the
But you
person.
can't. I don't think so. I don't think
You
so.
don't think so?
Not
You don't
to
think
not to
that
this
if-
large degree that
for
the
some-
right
have you-
tries
have-
to make it sound that
have
Trump
you-
prevented war.
Yeah, but have
I
you
don't
heard?
believe it.
Have you heard like the story about like how JFK met was it Khrushchev?
And his personality played a big part in how that turned
Exactly.
out. Yes, that is an
So-
example where it does. And I
Don't
didn't
you
say
think
it
that
never.
Trump's personality had a lot to do
No,
with it?
because I think his personality
But
is
that is-
buffoonish.
but that
I think
is-
his
but
personality
that
is corrupt
don't
and
you think
selfish.
that-
I don't think that has
Don't
anything to
you
do with
think that
preventing
you have
war.
glasses on that can't see anything positive
No.
with Trump?
No.
You don't
No.
think so? Well, I think
to
that
say that is to say that I'm not going to say you're insulting me, but I could say you're insulting me by saying that I have no nuance in my thought process.
no, but don't you think that your hatred towards
I
Trump?
don't hate Trump. I don't hate that man. I
But
don't
you
hate anybody.
dislike him a lot.
I
If
dislike.
not, I don't want to be your.
I dislike that man because of what he shows himself to be. His own words and action cause me to have no like for that man.
Yeah.
That does not mean I hate him. That does not mean I'm wearing anti-Trump glasses. The right would have it so, but that is not true.
But then you can go again on a right. For example, like if. Like what Jordan Peterson said, and he is not a Trump guy. He said this lately. He said like, if there had been any other president, Trump would have gotten the Peace Prize for the Nobel's Peace Prize for the Abrahamic
That's Jordan
Accord.
Peterson's opinion.
Okay, but
What did
but
Trump
the
do
thing-
actively to prohibit or to foment peace? What did he do to actively foment peace?
oh Lord, okay.
Call on him. Maybe the answer will
Seriously.
fall. But I want to know what that man did to actively foment peace. You know,
He got
actually,
he got Saudi Arabia, UAE, Israel together, and they made the Abrahamic Accord.
can I say something about Trump and Saudi
he's-
Arabia?
And he said, like, for example, like if Biden, what he sees.
I want to say something about Trump and Saudi
yeah, but
Arabia.
what Jordan Peterson said is like it
It's coming
seems
out.
like Biden was so proud that he hated Trump so much that he didn't want to give him, so he kind of let it because Saudi Arabia hadn't signed the contract by the
Okay.
So but if Biden had been a little bit more humble and kind of given that win to Trump, he thinks that this situation with Palestine today would have never happened. And
Maybe and
I agree
maybe
with him.
not. Maybe and maybe not. Who knows? It's one of those big ifs. If my son hadn't sneezed in my face a week ago, I wouldn't be sick right now. And because I'm sick right now, not sick of you, but physically sick, we're going to have to wind this up.
Okay.
But I do want to say something about Trump and Saudi Arabia. What do you, or I want to ask you, what do you think about the news coming out? It's been dripping, but it has been dripping that Trump went into some sort of covenant with Saudi Arabia, which then led to that Saudi Arabian national, that journalist being killed by the Saudi prince, chopped up, mutilated, and that was Trump's tacit approval. Now, no war,
I have no idea.
I don't know either.
I don't know the story,
And,
so that's
I
like
don't know
a
the
very,
details because
that-
the details haven't come out.
But that is like speculating on a
Yes,
whole
it
new
is.
level.
But
like,
because
I don't have any idea.
but listen to me, because one can speculate on those kind of things.
But
Right?
you're
It's
saying
a-
like,
it's a- hold on,
well,
hold on.
that's if-
Here, let me give you my point. That is an if, but you're saying if there's this big if another person had been president that there would have been more. There's that is a big leap in speculation. Just like this news that's coming out that Trump tacitly approved the mutilation and murder of that Saudi journalist. I'm just saying that if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. It's speculation, and there's nothing wrong with speculation, but speculation should not be the foundation of fact.
No, that I agree with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I have to wind this up.
Yeah,
But
no
before we do, let me ask you, is there anything that you wanted to cover that we didn't? I'm not saying we're going to cover it now. I just want to know what it is, if there is anything.
I think it would, like we were talking about abortion and like the pro-life, it's a lot more than just not killing a baby.
Yeah.
It's also afterwards. We can talk about that. And I think that it would be great to, because I do believe that we agree on a lot of things.
Yes, absolutely.
It's hard because it's like, it's my side against your side. And it's like, for example, I believe that the biggest problem with poverty, and it shows in statistics, is children growing up without fathers.
Yeah.
And if
Big problem.
if that is the biggest issue for poverty, for example, that should be the main solution. So what?
Yeah, and that's an interesting problem to try to tackle, because how do we make women and men choose to stay together for the benefit of children? How do we make that happen?
But that would be a very interesting conversation. And
let's do that the next time.
Yeah, like you can also look at Jordan Peterson. He has like this ACE or something like that. AEC is just coming up with a new conference that he talks about a lot of like, how do we get a better world?
Yeah.
And they had like this session about, for example, like the negative consequences of the sexual revolution, and how the children became the losers of that revolution. And how that has influenced society in a very bad way. And how the difference...
If we talk about that, and along with the fatherless homes thing, we will not be in disagreement. I think a fruitful conversation,
that'd be
because
great.
Both of us think that is a big problem that needs to be dealt with. We might disagree on the nuance of how to deal with it, but that we agree that it's a
and that
huge
is a
problem.
healthy thing.
Yes.
But we have the same goal.
Yes. Yeah. There we agree on the facts.
Yeah.
The facts are that fatherless homes cause a big... are the result of a big problem, especially in the United States, especially in
Norway
but especially in minority homes.
Yeah,
so we can talk about
thing
that.
that
Absolutely.
was interesting in that they said, like, research shows that for the first 3 years, it is very important that the mom is home with the kids, because she has the ability to comfort the kid with breast milk and stuff like that, and how devastating for the child's development for the rest of their lives is to put them into a kindergarten, for example.
I would love to talk about that.
And that blows up everything that we have been taught as a society
that
for the
goes
last
so much
30
against
years.
the feminist movement. So that would be very interesting. In fact, that would one of these days, maybe not the next time, but one of these days, I would love to have another person sitting on that couch, someone who would push back on things like that, fatherless homes and mothers prioritizing staying home with children. I would love to talk about that with you, and maybe a third person who totally disagrees, a feminist, for example, who totally disagrees with you on that. That would be interesting.
I don't get along with feminists.
Well, one of these days, I would love to have that conversation with a second person, a panel, a 3-person panel.
That'd be great.
Hans Jakob, this is yet another brick in the foundation of our friendship. Bricks are great.
Yeah.
Unless they're being thrown, but we're not throwing bricks. We're using them to build our brotherhood, to build our friendship. I love these conversations with you. This is the second one now. I hope to have 100 more.
Yeah, me too.
You're coming back this way again later this month, aren't you?
Yeah, I could come back in 2 weeks.
Let's see if we can get that scheduled. I know from the response to our first conversation, people, I don't want to say everybody enjoyed it, but it certainly grabbed a lot of attention. And actually, to those who think I did you wrong by not letting you speak the last time, at least on YouTube, most people sided with you, Hans Jakob. So I want that to be known, that most of the people who watched that episode, the first conversation with you on YouTube, they sided with you and your beliefs, which it's neither interesting or uninteresting, but it's an observable fact that most of the people sided with you. And that doesn't bother me. I enjoy when people disagree with what I say, because again, it challenges me to think and either solidify my thoughts on an issue or change my mind. And I enjoy that. That's growth. And I love growth. As a power lifter, I love growth. So I want that mental, emotional, spiritual growth as well. And you contribute to all of that for me. So thank you, brother.
Well, ditto.
I look forward to having you back again.
Me too.
Hans Jakob Winsnes, everybody. Part 2, Part 3, soon to come. Take care, everybody. Bye now.
Bye.